So for the next couple hours, we are going to talk about Emporia. And so this will be very, very fun, and this is all about you. How many of you know why I took that photograph? Over at ESU, back by the stadium. Beautiful, beautiful campus. So we have been here since Monday. Jane back there and I have been here since Monday, and we have done an assessment where we secret shopped you. Susan, Christian, nobody gave us, we never talked to anybody in Emporia until this morning. I met Susan this morning. Actually, we met at the conference in Topeka, but that was it. So we got no information about Emporia before we came here. We came here just like any other visitor would. As a tourist, as somebody looking for a home, we found the home we want. It's on 12th and West. You know the one I'm talking about? It's only 9,000 square feet with 8 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. Boy, it was, when I saw the price, I went, oh my gosh, in the rest of this country, that's a steal. But anyway, so we are looking as a visitor, as people looking for a place to establish a business or a place to live. So that's the eyes we came into Emporia with. I had not been in Emporia before. We did do an assessment up in Concordia. We did the same thing up there. We did a couple weeks ago in Independence. We've been working with Topeka for the last 8 to 10 months. We have been in Manhattan. We have been in Lawrence. I have spoken in Topeka. I've spoken in in Wichita. Getting my Wichitas mixed up. And then so we've been around the state, particularly the eastern part of Kansas. And so here's what we did. We came in and looked at your marketing effectiveness. How easy was it to find information? Was it good enough to close a sale? How did you stack up to the competition? Was it convenient to get information? And then we did the on-site assessment. And on the marketing, I'm not even going to cover marketing today. I'm going to cover the product development. So we're going to provide, for Susan, we're going to provide all of the marketing stuff, and that'll be coming later because we are going to do an assessment, findings, and suggestions report. What I'm going to concentrate on is what we did this week. We looked at your signage, your gateways, your wayfinding. That's directional signs, your overall appeal. What was our first impressions when we came in off the freeway? Critical mass, I'll explain that. Amenities, how was the parking? Restrooms, information. Yeah, you already know what I'm going to say about parking. And attractions, things to see and do. And then customer service. How were people? When we asked people, what is there to do around here? What did they say? And that is what we've been doing. As a matter of fact, we went through a list of 65 things, and I'm going to cover all 65 of them. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to tell you what we saw, our experience. And by the way, when we get back, we are going to do one of these. We're going to create an assessment findings and suggestions report. So you don't have to write all this stuff down unless there's key things you want to take note of. We are going to create that for you. It is being filmed right now, so you will also have a copy of this video. One thing that's really important, as I go through this, you're going to see lots of suggestions. There are no recommendations because we never talk to you first. So all we can do is make suggestions, just ideas. Because I'm going to tell you flat out from the eyes of a visitor what we saw. And there's probably a lot of things we missed. But we're going to show you what we saw. And so you're going to get this. And I'm going to show you a whole bunch. I think I have 60 suggestions for you. Later on, you can say, well, we're going to go ahead and implement that suggestion. That's a good one. You may say, we're already working on that. If you're already working on some of these, remember, we didn't get anything first. So if you're already working on it, then you should just say, yes, we're already working on that one. Good. And so that's what you have to understand. So I'm going to dig right in, and the very first one is that one. You need to redevelop your wayfinding system. And I'll tell you why. And it is suggestion number 1. And these, by the way, are not in any order because after I do the first couple, I'm just going to show you what we did, how we arrived. And by the way, we did fly into Kansas City and drive down. So we did not fly into Wichita. There's lots of direct flights to Kansas City, which unfortunately is the most dismal airport in the country. I travel 250 days a year, and I think I've been in just about all of them. But that's what we did. That's how we got here. When we got here, one of the challenges was your wayfinding system. And the challenge with your wayfinding system is none of them finish the job. You just tell you downtown is that way, fairgrounds is that way, ESU is that way, but you never finish the job. Some of your signs are faded and dark. The text is way too condensed. You can't even read it until you're right on top of the sign, and then it's too late to make a decision. So those are some things you need to work on, and this is what's involved in a wayfinding system. It starts right here. Number one is, can you tell me where the downtown is? First of all, here's the big deal. There are 7 signs in less than 500 feet right there. You know, federal highway standards say no more signs than 1 in 500 feet, and you have 7 in 500 feet. So what happens is, if I go back to this one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not counting this one here, not counting all the things on that sign. And so what happens is right here, if I'm going 25 miles an hour here, you know where I'm at here, right? The school, the one-room schoolhouse is right up here. So here's the back way. I think this is the back way into Emporia Estate. That's what it looks like to me. And so what happens is, by the time I can read this sign, I'm already past it. And you just have too much going on. You have bigger signs telling us how to get out of Emporia than how to get into Emporia. And so, right here, National Teachers Hall of Fame, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. And there's just too many of them. And by the way, here you go, here's another suggestion for you, is, we are building an inclusive community. You know what that sounds like? We're not there yet, but we're working on it. Change the sign that just says we are an inclusive community if you feel it's important. Better yet, do you really need it? When you put a sign like that, you're saying we've had a problem and a perception about us. So why put that perception back out in front of people? We are building an inclusive community. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. Or even if you say we are an inclusive community, you say, well, isn't everybody? Has that been a problem? You see what I mean? So you know what? The less signs you have, the better. So there's another. By the way, almost every single suggestion I'm going to give you is low-hanging fruit that doesn't cost a lot of money. If you implement these suggestions, and you can implement some of them not, it's up to you, you could double your tourism revenues and get poor people who want to live here, open businesses here. Really. And I'm not kidding you, wayfinding is probably the most expensive thing in this whole assessment. And so there you go. So there's the challenge. I mean, all of these are fine, but here's the challenge with this. There's no place to pull over, so are you going to pull over and then say, let's see, Masonic Lodge meets on, you know how it is if you belong to Kiwanis, okay, Best Western Street, by the time we go, there's no place to stop or read these. This should be in a different location where people can pull over and find out when and where Kiwanis meets. Because it would take you 2 or 3 minutes to read through all this. Too much going on. There it is. And by the way, you can't read. Look that's hard for you to read. And I am standing about from here to Susan Way. And I can't read it. And so there you go. Your letter should be a third larger, and you never ever use really condensed font. And by the way, Emporia kind of faded out over time there. So it is something you need to do. And by the way, when it comes to wayfinding, the sign should be along the lines of this. That is in Pittsburgh, California. It should be decorative. It should fit your brand, whatever that brand is. And so it's a good timing. If you're going to go through the branding process, it's a good time to reimagine your wayfinding system. And by the way, people say, oh, well, Roger, we all have GPS units now. 20% of people use GPS navigations, whether smartphones or Garmin or whatever. And by the way, we use navigation systems. We type in things we already know exist. Your signs tell us things we might not know exist. And a lot of your attractions and amenities are not even on the way, are not even in navigation. So I used a Garmin, and a lot of them aren't there. Never more than 5 items on a sign. These are condensed, but notice the spacing between the letters. See, that's why when you do wayfinding, it is as much a science as it is an art. There's Woodlands, Texas. And so that is something that you need to do. So right here, right here we've got another, this is another location. Here we are, home of Veterans Day. We got 1, 2 signs, then we got all of these, plus this one here. And this one is just too hard to read. And it does say, WA white site, and everything. But you know what? None of these really finish the job. They just send you in the general direction. And so that can be very frustrating. It was frustrating for us. Number 3, you can start with the highways. You know what? We came in on, is it 335 or 35? One of them. We saw no signs out on the freeway that said downtown Emporia. That is something you need to work with KDOT on, Kansas Department of Transportation on. It's getting somewhere, one of those that takes us down and gets us onto Commercial Street so we know that you have a downtown. Because what we did is when we first came in, I think it said Emporia next 2 exits. And it was like 3 or 4 exits. We saw, it says Emporia next exits. We drove all the way past all of them, waiting for the one that would tell us where to get into Central or downtown. There wasn't one. We ended up taking some farm roads and came back in town the back way. Because we didn't know what else. It was too hard to turn around on the freeway, so we just took another exit and worked our way back downtown. So there's another one you could do. And there were some things we never did find, like that. I have no clue where that is. We looked and looked and looked. I have no clue. We saw it on a rack card, and on the rack card, let me find it. By the way, Emporia, you win the prize for being the rack card capital of the world. You have 13 different ones. Let me see if I can find the right. I feel like I'm playing with a deck of cards here. And so there was one that did have play. Was it on the back of the play one? No, there's the zoo. Let's see, family time. Maybe it's on this one. Did it have its own? Yellow. It's yellow. Okay, here we go. Here, I'm coming up to yellow. Here it is. Sertona mini train. Never found it. And on this brochure, it tells you it's open June through September, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And but nowhere is there even an address. So, just so you know, there's a couple things we couldn't find. The trailheads, we kept seeing things like, well, let me show you this. Trail crossing. It's a private residence on one side of the street, and the other side of the street is a fenced-off parking lot to the zoo. Where's the trail crossing? So you have signs like this that don't make any sense whatsoever. Or you have lots of these kinds of signs that say bike route, but I don't know where it goes. So one suggestion would be you got to name these different bike routes, because we don't know whether they connect, whether they're all part of one, whether this is a different section, and there's no. We couldn't find any bike parking lots. You know what I mean? Trailheads. Well, park here, get out your bike, or rent a bike, or anything. Nothing. And so this is all part of your wayfinding, by the way. It should include your trails. It should include your gateways, entries, all of these things. It would even be cool if you had a biking app here, because we saw lots of brochures for biking. It seemed to be kind of a big deal. And so we thought, man, but we did see a brochure for biking. And by the way, the brochure had little photographs and everything, but it was almost impossible to use because we could not figure it out. So maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger or whatever, and I know it's here somewhere. But those are things you can work on. So these are just suggestions. Things we found by accident was the Welsh farmstead, we think. We drove by this house, and Jane goes, oh, that looks familiar. I think I saw that on the cover of one of the rack cards. Lyon County Historical Museum we found by accident. Because, we were going up and down Commercial. You know what people do. They never go down to side streets. And so, is this the Welsh farmstead? We found by accident. There's no signs going to it or anything. And here's the other question for you. Is it Is somebody live here? Is it a museum?
It's part of the museum, yes.
Okay, but there's no, well, we'll get to that. Okay? But we recognize it there. We just had to be driving by. And by the way, look at this picture really close to me. Can you see the signs that tell you where the zoo is? Can you see it? Come on, look really hard. Come on, I know you're looking. You're straining your eyes. Yeah, can you see it? There it is. Can you read that? I am literally standing right across the street with a telephoto lens, and I still can't read it. This is all part of wayfinding. We almost missed the zoo because we drove by here several times and never saw it. Okay, here I am really close to it. Now I'm right across the street. Can you read it? Your zoo deserves a better sign than that. It should be about 5 times bigger and decorative and beautiful. Temporarily, you know what you could do right now is I would have somebody go out there before this weekend. I'd have somebody go out there and with a little brush and paint all the letters white. Because when you use black letters on dark brown, it's impossible to read. This is why you need wayfinding. If you want people to spend time and money in Emporia, you have to make it easy. And it's not. It's a beautiful spot. Things we had a hard time getting to, we saw Jones Aquatic Center from the freeway. Good luck finding it. You know, which side of the freeway? It looks like it's on that side of the freeway. No, I think it's on this side of the freeway. And by the way, we stayed at the Holiday Inn Express and it was right next door, practically. But we had a hard time figuring out. There's no signs. And we didn't know whether it was open to the public. And so finally, I took this picture from an overpass. You know, there it is. I don't know how to get there, but there it is. It looks great. So one of the suggestions I have for you is I have 30 hours worth of videos on our website. They're all like Netflix. We're going to give you access to those. And there's one about wayfinding, because I could spend the whole 2 hours talking about wayfinding, and I just want to touch on. But there's a whole video that tells you how to do it, how much it costs, the things to do, what you need to put on your signs, how often they should be, all of those things. So I'd urge you to watch that, and there'll be lots of details for that. Because you know what's funny is you have better signs to the treatment plant than you have to any attractions or amenities. And the reason is probably the Public Works Department has a sign shop, so they put out things that appeal. And by the way, since when does anybody need wayfinding to the water treatment plant? So let's put some effort into the things that matter. I mean, I know that matters as a city, but you know what? I hope it's not that big a tourist attraction, is it? Okay. So a side note right now. This just cracked us up. Because we love the fact that whenever you come into Emporia, your entrances are guarded with tanks. You know, we got to make sure that we have tanks and assault helicopters and fighter jets and more tanks and everything. And it's really cool because all the tanks point right at you as you're driving in. Now, I'm not saying change them at all. For me, you know what? It may not be that funny, but I got a kick out of it that you guard your entrances with weapons. You know, Emporia proud. Woohoo! Just a little side trip there. This is another one we want you to do. So wayfinding, those first 6 were all about wayfinding. And it should be a #1 priority. Because when you connect the dots, you know what your wayfinding does? It educates us of what you have and where it's at. One word in tourism: convenience. If it's not easy to find, if I have to struggle, we say one word: next, and we're back on the freeway heading to Wichita, Topeka, somewhere else. And so wayfinding. #2 is making sure you have visitor information that works around the clock. And congrats to the people that did the All Wars Veterans deal, because they actually had a brochure holder there. It needs some paint. And I went there, and sure enough, and I did pick up, because there are no interpretive signs here. It's just stuff. That's one problem you have in Emporia, is you put displays out there and there's no information about them. There's no information about that helicopter or the tank. Luckily, there was a brochure in there that at least told me about the site. But it was the only place that actually had a brochure that could help us. So congrats to the people who do this. Now you need to do them in other locations. This was a beautiful spot. Part of the reason we miss the zoo is when you come that way, you see the tank. You cannot miss the tanks, the helicopters, and everything. And so what happens is the zoo is across the street. You don't even see its sign. We probably drove by the zoo half a dozen times. They had no clue it existed. And so, because this is really beautiful. So there you go. You've got great things. You know, I think it'd be cool if you added, even if you're, and by the way, there's only like 2 or 3 more brochures, and I took one of them, so you better go out there and restock it. But I would like to know about that helicopter. Well, this is the type of helicopter they used in Vietnam. It is a such and such and such and such. Give us some stories. People love stories. Same with the tank. And so we did see the bridge. We pull up there and we saw the river there, took pictures of the river. But once we were here, here's our question. Is this a trail? Does anybody know? It's not a trail. What is it? Is it just a dead end? But could it be a biking trail, or is it just, but it's not anything now? Okay. Well, see, I was going to say there might be a missed opportunity. There's no signs or anything, so we didn't dare go in there. You know, walk into the woods, take a walk on the wild side. But once again, it's a cool old bridge and everything, so we took pictures of the river, but we didn't know if we should go down there or whatever. And I thought, if it was a trail system, put a marker there and tell us. Does it go a mile, a half a mile, a quarter of a mile? Does it connect into anything? And so when we're talking about visitor information, even right here, this is what you call biting the hand that feeds you. Because even right here, there should be 24-hour visitor information. You know what? We don't just travel 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whenever it's open. And so you should always have visitor information 24 hours a day. And this is right downtown. So what I'm suggesting is something like this. This is in North Platte, Nebraska. In North Platte, Nebraska, when the visitor information center closed, they have this little box right here. Lisa that runs their visitor information center said she paid about $300 for it. Here it is, a close-up. And they have they have the Nebraska Visitors Guide, and then they have their North Platte Visitors Guide, and then a brochure right there. And there it is really close, and you just flip up the lid there, and so that's what you need. By the way, this is the one area where people want the old technology. We don't want digital kiosks. We want to actually take a brochure. We can go sit in a restaurant and look at it, or in our hotel room. And so that's what you need. And you should have that in downtown. You should have it in a few places. It should be over here as well. Because there's nothing around this building at all. It's a community building, but, you know, if we're coming into the fairgrounds, why wouldn't you have visitor information there to tell about other things there is to do in Emporia? And you know what's really interesting about brochures is before people travel somewhere, only 32% of the decisions comes from brochures. Because, you know what, number one is the internet, number two is friends and family. But while we're traveling, brochures are number one. We're in Emporia. Let's get a brochure that will show us what there is to do here, where there is to eat here. Let's grab that. Now, we do know that in your downtown you have shops that have visitor information. But what if we didn't make it in downtown? What if we only made it to the fairgrounds? What if we only made it to the zoo and the veterans, all wars veterans? You know, we made it to other places. We only made it to ESU. And that's what you need to do. By the way, besides doing those that you mount on a building, you can even do really cool ones. This is my favorite one. I've seen thousands and thousands. This is Cape May, New Jersey, a little town of about 2,000 people. This is called the Washington Street Mall. And on it they have this little kiosk. Isn't that cool? It says, "Welcome friends old and new. Linger here a day or two." But here's the cool thing about visitor information kiosks. They need to include brochure distribution. So it can't just be a kiosk. So here it is up closer. I got to find out how much it cost to build that. I'm guessing it was probably right around $4,000, maybe $5,000, to build that with a brick and everything. It's got lights in it. But it's got all the brochures in there. It's got a map. upcoming events, and we think that you should have a bunch of these. You should have them scattered in different locations all over Emporia, so that if we're coming to ESU, we can grab a brochure that talks about the museum or talks about different things. We can grab your visitor's guide. By the way, a lot of times you could even say, if you want to put your brochure in here, it costs you $3 a month. Well, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 30. 3 times 30 is, $100 a month. That helps keep it clean, keeps it stocked. See what I mean? So that's what you should do. So something like this would be great. Even things like this, where you've got brochures and flyers you could take out. That's in Idaho. Or even one like this. They did this in Moses Lake, Washington. They called it Information Station. Now, I don't think the graphic design is that great, but you can put the must-see things to do in Emporia, and then on the back have all kinds of brochure distribution. By the way, Kiwanis built that. So this is where you can bring Rotary and Kiwanis and those kinds of organizations into the fold to help do some of these things. Kingsport, Tennessee. This is theirs. It's all brick. It fits the brick architecture of their town. And there it is. They've got the brochure right there. But this is what you need to do. Beatty, Nevada did one where they had Rotary bought this kit gazebo. Kiwanis put it together. Then they hired a local craftsperson for $3,500 to build this in the middle of it. Notice it's got brochures wrapped all the way around it and then maps of the area. So these are just some ideas, but to get you started, all you need is something like that. Like this one right here. I mean, that's a real estate brochure holder. I mean, that costs, $10. It's a start. And put those in different locations. This is Wickford, Rhode Island, isn't that? So they did that. They just have a little sign that they're downtown. And so places for kiosks. You need to have one at the zoo. You need to have one at your hotels, because you know what? We're staying out on Industrial Drive. There's no signage or anything telling you how to get to downtown. You know what most people do if they stay out there? They get back on the freeway. We learned that if you go down Industrial Drive south and turn left on 12th, it'll bring you into downtown. But we had to learn that, because most people, they just go right back on the freeway. Golf course, you need to have one. The airport, you need to have one. The fairgrounds, you need to have, heck, 2 or 3 of them, because the fairgrounds are kind of big. And you should have 2 or 3 at ESU around the campus. And you need to have one at each historic site. Displays like the Veterans Memorials or the Teachers Memorial. At your primary parks, like particularly your disc golf, where people are coming in from other communities to play disc golf. What a great place to sell them that you have more than just what's there at that park. These are all places. And then there's one more I want you to do. This one I love. This is in Banff, Alberta. That's made out of PVC pipes. You know how much that cost? $1,800. It all comes apart. You can cover this covering over it when it's closed. It's got little casters on it. You can wrap this around there. And wouldn't it be cool when you have, does ESU do rush when freshmen come in? You should have one of these right on campus. When you do your Veterans Parade, have one right there. This is a mobile kiosk you take wherever the people are. How cool is that? So if you're having big events, bring the visitor information to them. Convenience is the word. For a couple $1,000s, you could have a couple of these. So wherever there are people gathering, you bring that out. How cool is that? And so we got lots of video watching for you. There's a whole video just on that. It'll tell you where you buy those, how much they cost, everything. So there's another video for you to watch. So those are the startup, is visitor information and wayfinding. We came into town, we couldn't find anything. We didn't know where downtown was. We went past it, took roads, and we ended up kind of coming down South Street. You know where that leads out there? Coming in South Street and kind of went down there, and then we kind of went by Commercial. We said, maybe that's the downtown up in Commercial. But we kept going straight. Eventually, we ended up over on Industrial because your wayfinding sign wasn't really complete, and we couldn't get visitor information. Because your information is downtown. We weren't at downtown. So here's what happened. We came to Kansas City Monday morning. Then we drove down, And we got here late afternoonish on Monday, early afternoon, and we did what visitors do. We said, let's find a good place to eat, and we went to TripAdvisor, which is now the most visited travel website on the planet. Oops. Watch your peer reviews, what people are saying about you. So we went right to TripAdvisor to find a good place to eat. And we saw Emporia, Kansas. Now we knew that you must have a zoo somewhere. And there were 1,145 reviews and opinions. And by the way, people trust peer reviews 88% of the time. Advertising, 12%. We trust what other people say. TripAdvisor is really important. So we did go right to there and we saw Bobby D's. Number 1 of 66 restaurants, and that's exactly where we did and how we found downtown. So we did go there Monday evening. We did eat at Bobby D's. And one thing that when we went into Bobby D's, I think they could have a little more beautification there. But they got the benches. Is it said in there, the best ribs you will ever taste. Now that's a high and mighty promise. But you know what? They were really good. They were really good. It was really good. Matter of fact, we were impressed. Good atmosphere, good service. So, by the way, let me back up a second. Before we did this, we stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. Suites, Holiday Inn Express was number 2. The only reason we stayed at Holiday Inn remember, this is cutting out on me. I'm a Holiday Inn, whatever it is, Priority Club or whatever. And so that's why we stayed there. And it was fine. It was great. But I want to let you know, walked in, 2 young gals at the front desk. And we had driven in the back way and stuff, and we'd seen signs for William White. My first thing is, William White, I know that name. Oh, he's the guy that has the Persian in, I think it's Dr. No, one of the first James Bond movies. And they were, oh no, that's Willard White. So William White, I'm going, who's William White? Who's William White? And I remember, because I was a journalism major, and I go, I know that name, but I couldn't quite place it. Went in a Holiday Inn Express, two young gals at the front desk, really nice. And I said, so you guys, who's William White? They didn't know. One of them said, I think he wrote children's books. And I said, do you know the name of the books? Have you read any? And he said, no. And the other one says, I think we learned that in school, but I can't remember who he is. And then somebody else was saying, well, wasn't he a politician? Didn't know. What's cool is, I told him to Google it because there'd be a test later. When we went back after dinner at Bobby D's, one of the girls was already gone, the other one was there, and she goes, I know who William White is. Yes, I Googled him. He was the editor of our paper here. But you know what? Here's the problem. If you're local, we went to Bobby D's, waitress came over, really, really nice. By the way, we really got, you know what? After 2 days in Emporia, we felt like we were at home. Young girl was working there. She was our waitress at Bobby D's. The next day was her last day there. She'd worked there for 2.5 years. I can't remember her name. Somebody probably knows. Her dad works for John Deere. She's getting a nursing degree. Our camera quit on us. Yeah, that's fine. You're getting it filmed with a real camera next door, so I think we're good. But, so she said, yeah, I've got a nursing degree, or I'm going down to get my nursing degree, or get her a registered nurse, and so she's going to go down to Wichita, but she's worked at the restaurant for 2.5 years. Her dad works for John Deere, and do you know who William White is? I think we studied him in school. We could not find locals that knew who he was. So you have an identity crisis there. If you want us to come from other cities and your locals don't even know who he is, that's a challenge. By the way, it was, one of my favorite things about Emporia, and I don't want to hang your brand on it, it's all about our people. We have friendly people, because we still have things to do. But it was so cool because we knew her. We got to know her. She was the waitress there. It was her next to last day. We gave her a big tip. because she said, tomorrow when I come to work, I'm going to cry. I've worked here for 2.5 years. I mean, these people here just pour out to you. Day before yesterday, we're downtown. The parking meter guy. We're downtown with a big camera taking pictures. He pulls over, he goes, don't worry, I'm just here because it's shade. This little cart does not have air conditioning. And so I'm going around doing all the meters. He's marking tires and everything. And you know what we found out? He's getting married next week. And you know what? But he's been living with the gal for a while, and he says he's already spent a lot of time on the couch. And he said he couldn't wait to get married because all those days would be behind him. I said, friend, let me tell you something. They're just beginning. No, I'm just kidding. But isn't that funny? You get to know, we knew he's getting married. You know they already lived it. I think she has a 10-year-old boy, and he's been sleeping on the couch a lot, and all that's going to come to an end. And, we got to know the people great. And you know what? We loved it. It's cool. When you can connect with the locals, it creates loyalty. Even yesterday, we've done 1,000 of these assessments. And I told Jane yesterday, I said, this is so cool. I feel like we walked into Amanda's yesterday to have lunch for the same time and said, oh, hi, how are you? Thanks for coming back. Wow, that's pretty cool. Don't you think? So anyway, we had Bobby D's. It was great. One thing you need to do is promote your anchor tenants. This is the brochure. You can take all 13 of your rec cards, combine them into one brochure. Always promote the best of Emporia. You always promote your anchor tenants. Just like a mall. No mall is ever developed without anchor tenants. So we want you to create the very best of Emporia. What are those businesses that if we're driving down 35, 335, any of these highways and freeways between Wichita and Topeka, which one of these would we go out of our way and say, while we're driving through, the first rule in tourism is to get people to stop. If you can get them to spend 2 hours spending doubles, and of course they spend the night, it quadruples. So you need to do that. Promote your anchor tenants. And so you could do this. This is in Wausau, Wisconsin. There it is. And Wausau, Wisconsin has this one. Here it is right here. I'm holding it in my hand. And it's got all there. You need to promote your very best restaurants, your very best retail shops, and your very best activities. No hotels. Because we want your hotels to hand this out. And they don't want to have their competitors in there. The most asked question in the world is this: where's a good place to eat? And don't hand me a list. Where would you eat? Wouldn't it be cool if that front desk person could say, you know what, here's the very best of Emporia. In it you'll find our top restaurants. And they might even say, and by the way, there's one that's not in here that I think is really good. That's okay. Because the last thing you ever want somebody to do is say, well, all we can promote is our chamber members. Or if they're a CVB, are you a membership organization? Good, she's not in membership. But a lot of times their membership says we can only promote our members. You know what? That doesn't help me as a visitor. So what you do is you create the very best of. And the criteria you could use could be like this. They must be highly regarded by somebody other than themselves. Like 80% plus positive peer reviews. Regional publications, Midwest Living Magazine, TripAdvisor, Yelp, you name it, that should be one of the criteria. They should have good curb appeal. They need to be open year-round. And they need to be open until at least 6 o'clock p.m., and I'm going to get more into that. And they should be open at least 6 days a week. They could be closed on Mondays. And they need to be unique to you. And by the way, you can change this around. Because we had to wait 2 days in the middle of the week to eat at the brew pub. I went, you're closed on Tuesday and Wednesday? And so it's kind of weird, and so you need to promote your anchor tenants. You need to market those. And you know what? To take the politics out of it, how would you like me to give you the list right now? Here you go. Casa Ramos. That was the most beautiful Mexican restaurant I have ever eaten in, and I've eaten in a lot. We've worked all over Texas, Oklahoma, everywhere. That was great. Great food, awesome service. When Richard from the state went there, it wasn't so great, but I think they've fixed it, hopefully. But it was incredible. We had our dinner like in 5 minutes. And so, anchor tenant, Bobby D's. It was really good. Radius Brewing Company. I don't know about those days off, though. That bothered us being closed in the middle of the week. But, you know, they're still Amanda's Bakery, awesome. The Granada Coffee Company. What a great little place. And, you know, Jay's Carryout. Now, we didn't get a chance to eat at Jay's Carryout because it was either too hot or it was too stormy. And but it looked great. And the reason we put that on there, number one, these are all the highest rated ones. And everybody kept saying, gotta try Jay's. Boy, the burgers there are awesome. So we did find it. We did go down there and look at it. But you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would not mention more than 6. The second you start mentioning more than 6, they're going to say, oh, they're just listing all their restaurants. And none of these are chains. But, you know, Cafe Ramos, Casa Ramos was beautiful. I'm going, man, whoever did all those chairs and tables and everything, wow. Pretty amazing, actually. You know, there it is, the little coffee house, the Granada Coffee Company right next door. It is just great. Love it. Blows away Starbucks. And by the way, best of, look at that. They're already there. Hello. You know, there it is. Jay's Carryout. Welcome, golfers. We didn't even know there was a golf course until we saw that. And so it looks great, just great. And by the way, you know, I wouldn't say it has the best curb appeal. Sometimes we're bending the rules here a little bit. But the reason I want you to have criteria is so that politics doesn't get in the way. Well, you picked them and you didn't pick me. And I think I'm just as good as them. You got to get past that. And, you know, retail shops, Studio 11. By the way, we went into the art center. We met 2 young people there. Young guy. He'll be a senior in high school. And he'll be a senior in high school starting here, next week, I think. And I said, so when you're done with high school, you're going to blow this town? He goes, no. He says, you know, the president of our university is such an awesome dude that he came over and talked to us. And he said, I'm already doing kind of like Running Start. He says, I already have like 30 credits. See what I mean? We're getting to know your locals. And he said, I already have like 30 credits, so no way. I'm staying right here and going to ESU. That's pretty cool. The young girl working there, she's already a student at ESU. She's the one that started the conversation about our president. He is so awesome. The president of our university, he is so cool. He comes to the tailgate parties. He comes everywhere we're at. I mean, he is just so great. How long has he been here? Oh, he's been here, a couple of years. He's just really awesome. Man, it has changed everything. And you know what? I haven't met him, but I really got to meet this guy because he's a bigger celebrity than William White. And they said, I said, where's a good place to eat? I asked the question. I already knew, but I didn't say it. If you're into burgers, you got to go down to Jay's to carry out. It's really cool. It's got really good burgers. See what I mean? That's cool stuff. Oh, and she said, Studio 11. We had walked by Studio 11. I said, boy, you have so many secondhand stores here. The last thing I want to go to is another secondhand store. Because that's what we thought it was. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Little Red Rooster, we had no clue what it was, but it looked like a really cool shop, really highly rated. Jim's Cowboy Shop, we don't know how that looked pretty cool from outside. And by the way, we didn't have time to go in every store. The Sweet Granada, the chocolate shop, absolutely. I'm wearing 2 pounds of their stuff right now. And it is really great. Oh my gosh. These are things that are worth pulling off the freeway and coming in downtown for specifically. By the way, when you promote your anchor tenants, everybody else benefits. When we go to a mall, we go there for the anchor tenants. We usually don't go to a mall because there's cell phone dealerships and a Radio Shack and a Hallmark store and a GNC nutrition store. But you know what? When we go there for the anchor tenants, we shop in those stores. So when you promote your anchor tenants, and most of these are downtown, we're not going to just go in them. We will also go in other shops. So I don't want you to think that you're promoting one, not promoting them, because once you got us in the downtown on foot among your stores, it's up to the shop owner to pull us in. But you've got us. And so it's great. Activities, the zoo. disc golf, the theater. This place is stunning. It's gorgeous. So glad you have it. So glad you saved it. The biking trails, I think they sound like they're good. I mean, we saw lots of brochures and everything. I think that could be something. Emporia State University, I don't know what the activity is, but I think it's absolutely worth people seeing and discovering. It's great. It's a beautiful campus. And then, you know, the Granada, one thing I want to say about the Granada is you got to change your brochure. Because the Granada brochure, or at least the rack card, if I can find the rack card here, the rack card says, this is what happens when you have so many rack cards. We can't find the right one. Let's see, let me find it here. Is you need to promote, because we got the rack card before we knew about the Granada. I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, it's the very last. Oh, no. Did I miss it? There it is. Here's what the brochure says. Have a ball at the Granada Theater. On the back it says, built in 1929, Spanish Revival architecture, multi-purpose facility, seats over 800, stage for live performances, conferences, meetings, group tours, parties, receptions, concerts, movie screen and AV equipment, call for rental rates. We had no clue that anything ever happened here. We thought it was just a rental facility. The only time we ever figured out that there's something going on here when we happened to be walking right in front of it, and we saw that. You need to put a QR code for upcoming performances, QR code right here. Take us to the website and it'll list all these. That's all you have to add to make this work. But this brochure right here is your visitor brochure, and it's about renting the facility. See, these are little things that don't cost hardly any money that could really, really make a big impact. So those are some of those things. And by the way, even when it comes to, this is really flattering. And this is my fault. What I should have done is called Christian and Susan and said, you know what, don't put my name up there, because you know what, do you care a flip about who I am? You know what would get people to turn out this morning? If we put up there, learn how to double your business Friday morning. Always promote the why. Always promote the outcome in everything you do as a business or as an organization. So I should have called and said, you know what, don't put me up there in lights. I'm really flattered of that, but that's not why people are here. You're here because you care about Emporia or you have a business or an organization. Am I right? It's not about me. So I just want you to think that in other things that you do. So anyway, that's really cool. And by the way, I sent that to my office and said, how cool is that? I love this poster. You know what? You need to go make some of these. This is 1929 poster. This is in the coffee shop. It says Midwest Granada Theater. What's really cool, it says, dedicated to the 67,000 people residing in Emporia and the adjoining territory. Where'd everybody go? Wow, either that or it was a big territory at some point. But anyway, it's a really cool poster. I think you could sell those and make money. I'd buy one and I'd have it framed. I think it's just really cool. We love this stuff. While you're here, check out these things. So what I want you to do is your best of. Here's your best restaurants, your best retail shops, our best activities, and while you're here, also do these. See what I mean? That way, instead of having, you could have one brochure plus your visitor's guide promoting the best ofs. And you wouldn't have to have all those rack cards. So that was our first day. The second day we got up, and I had to take a picture of this. I think this is the coolest, iconic, most iconic thing in all of Emporia. That is so cool. I hope it never falls down. I hope you paint it something. It's just cool. How many of you think that's cool? Okay, some of you are going, are you kidding? I think it's just really cool. It could use a paint job, but you know what? You don't want to overpaint it so it looks new. We did find the Jones Aquatic Park. We drove around and tried to figure out how to do it, which side of the freeway. You got all these overpasses that go over the freeway. So we did find it. It looks great. It looks like a nice facility. We didn't think you could hang your brand on it because you ought to see the one in Independence. It is incredible. But it's still a very nice community amenity. Great water slides and everything. Thought it was great. We did find the soccer fields. But you know, here's where I'm going to be a little bit mean. There's an awful lot of stuff like this. It looks like, and I'm going to show you even more, it looks like the city or somebody has really good ideas. We put really pretty signs. We put up little corner parks downtown. We put up stuff, and nobody's there to maintain it. And so it looked like you're really lacking from maintenance. Or it could be the city is so broke we don't have anybody to maintain anything. And so that was a common thing we saw in Emporia, is that you have nice stuff that nobody's taking care of. So that was our impression. Things like that, all covered with mold. Guess what? We found some nice neighborhoods. So what we did is we started wrapping ourselves around the west side of town, heading up to the northwest, and we found some really incredible neighborhoods. The reason I'm showing this is, why do you think this person put a bench out there? Do you think they actually sit out there in that bench every day? Or even ever? You know why they do it? It makes it feel welcome. Same with this house. Whenever you put chairs out there, benches out there, and so I want you to remember that, merchants downtown. The reason you do benches and chairs, like Bobby D's, is to make it welcoming. It's not that we're all going to go sit out there. It'd be nice if we did, but you know what? It makes them welcome. So I just wanted to bring that to you, that whenever people do that, it makes it feel welcoming. So we're driving around, found really nice neighborhoods, and then we found it. And we went, man, why didn't we stay here at this fantastic destination resort? I mean, look, it's a holiday resort. It's got beautiful landscaping. I mean, we drove in, and it also has the chairs out there. And then we saw people walking around in uniforms, and we started looking at the nice cabins, and they had the little walkers. And then we go, oh, it's a retirement resort, isn't it? But we didn't know. So we weren't. So I told Jane, well, that'll be us in 10 years. We'll be back to the holiday resort. We did find Jones Youth Recreation Park. And this was great. Here it talks all about the disc golf. It's got the course. You know what the challenge is with this? Is that it would be really nice if we could click on a QR code. You know what? I can't memorize that. So I don't know where the disc golf, where the baskets are. I didn't know where they were, and I thought, man, you need a brochure there so we could hit like golf. You know, when you get your golf card, it gives you the layout of the golf course, and you need to do the same there. So having a little brochure or something there, or a QR code for an app that would show the map on an app. But once again, it's nice that you had it there. It showed the layout. It showed where all the baskets are and everything. So we're driving around. We did find that. And then we saw the Emporia Country Club and said, there's the golf course. Remember, we saw a golf course downtown, or a sign for one. And so we did see it, and it looked like a beautiful golf course. Our first question is, wow, where's the public play and everything? And then we saw the sign that says members and guests only. So then, okay, so that's, I guess I don't know what golf course they're promoting. And actually, one thing I wanted to mention is your gateways are stunning. They're beautiful, and they're in good locations. So congrats. I don't know if you have a garden club or if the city parks department does that, but these are well maintained. Thank you. So my other things, they were more like downtown stuff, but they were gorgeous. They were beautiful. Some of the best gateway signs I've seen anywhere. Great job. Really great job. Gives you a good sense of place. And of course, then we saw all these everywhere, the wayfinding. But once again, you're starting to get a lot of weeds and stuff are growing up all over the place. And we were back at this end. So as we're working back around, coming from the northwest, now we're coming across the north towards the east. And we did come back over here. And one thing I would suggest right here is you can't read this writing. I mean, I'm right in front of it and I can barely read it. We didn't even notice it because we are drawn by all the signs in the tank on the other side of the street. But I think if you paint these white or yellow, they would stand out, because this you can't hardly even read there. And so we did see the little one-room schoolhouse, and this was one of the biggest disappointments. And it's not the schoolhouse, because the schoolhouse is really cool. But one of the challenges is the doors are locked. I don't know if they're ever open. I don't know if there's everything inside. All it is a building. There's no interpretive signs. There's nothing. All it is a building. Then I see Memorial to Fallen Educators. So we walk around and we do see this, and it lists them. We don't know. There's no information. All it is lists. We don't know whether these are teachers that went in and fought in World War II, Vietnam, Afghanistan. They're fallen teachers, but we don't know where they fell or why they fell. You know, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks was a teacher. So we thought this must be a memorial to teachers who have been in the military because of your Veterans Day. That's what we thought. There's not one shred of information that says these are teachers that died while they were in the classroom, whether it's Columbine or Sandy Hook. We don't know. There's no information. None. As a matter of fact, the thing that made it the most disappointing was the fact that I can't figure out whether you are honoring the donators. And you even have one of these big boards. Here's all the people that donated to it. And you even have a board that's got etched in gold, the board of directors. Are the board of directors for this memorial more important than the teachers? So you have three big plaques, one for the board of directors, one for the donors, and one for these donors. I don't know which donors these are, or if these are just people, there's just no information at all. And so we're going, what happened here? So first of all, add interpretive sign about that schoolhouse. It was relocated here. This for 20 years or 50 years, 100 years, this is the school that we used. I don't know, is it ever open to the public? What are we honoring? Teachers that have fallen while serving in the military or fallen in the line of duty while they're in the classroom? We don't know. There are no stories, no information, just lists. And so that's something you could change. You know, tell us a story or two. And I'm guessing that these are people that fell while they were teaching. Is that right?
That's correct. And there's also a kiosk that is being installed that will tell
thank you.
Every teacher it's on order.
Good. So
less than 2 months.
Okay. So here's what I want to make a statement right now. Remember, if you say, well, Roger, you know what? We're already working on those. Congratulate yourself, because you are. Perfect. But I got to tell you, just as a first-time visitor, you know what you could do? I'd put up a temporary sign right now that says, by the way, kiosk is coming in the next 2 months. You know what that does? It's an invitation to come back. So that's one thing you could do, is say, coming soon is a kiosk that explains it. I'm so glad you're doing that. So I'm glad I asked. Thank you. So it is a cool thing. It's just that when we got there, that's all we saw. So great. See, you're already working on a lot of these things. So we did turn left there, and we thought, well, let's check out the university. And like usual universities, you have to have all these different permits and everything. We never did find this Teacher Hall of Fame thing. We thought it was supposed to be in that little one-room schoolhouse, but it was locked because there's a sign that says Teacher Hall of Fame, and once you turn, there's no signs. Nothing. And so we did go back in there, and they said, oh boy, it's permit parking. I did see some parking meters, and I walked over to them, and then when I walked over to the parking meters, I could see it's free. I went, yes, way to go. But the only reason I would know they're free is if I walked over to the other side of the parking lot and saw them. So we did park there just to check it out, and we did see this, and if we would not have been doing an assessment, driving down everything, we would have never made it back here. And so I did see Visser Hall, National Teachers Hall of Fame. I kind of went, I'm not too sure. I walked in there. Here's some upcoming inductees. And I walked around. It's just a bunch of classrooms. And there was a meeting going on one. I looked in the door, and there was a meeting going on in there. I went, we never found it. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's this whole building, if it's one of the classrooms with the closed doors. No clue. So we never found any Teachers Hall of Fame. And I didn't want to interrupt people and say, excuse me, we're looking for this. There was no signs, there was nothing. So if it's there, you know what? I think you should move it downtown. somewhere, maybe in the museum or somewhere where it would be, easier to get to and there's actual parking. So while we're there, beautiful campus. We caught the football team out there practicing, and just really, really a stunning campus. And I showed you this one earlier, and then we couldn't figure out how to get around in the campus because it's like one way going one way. So we did drive around to the other side of the campus, office 12th, and pulled in there. But we couldn't find any public parking. You have one of the few university campuses that has no wayfinding on it. And so we don't know how to get ourselves around on the campus or where to park if I want to come in and I want to show a kid the campus. I couldn't find any signs for any public parking or anything. So there's a major disconnect there with the campus if we're a guest. So we just pulled up in front since school's not in session this week, and I had to just get my picture taken, I just needed to get my elbow up a little higher, but I thought he was a pretty cool mascot. So we're driving around, and we did go see the William White House, and it was beautiful. Here's the challenge is, can you see this sign right there? It's right there. Can you see it? One thing you need to know, signs always need to be perpendicular to people. And so that sign is actually right there, and it's easy to see if you're across the street. So one thing I do is make it double-sided and turn it so that it's facing us. So just remember that for all signs. Here was our challenge. We were there on Tuesday, and we're walking up to the house. It's beautiful. The front door's locked. We see a sign here that just says closed. There's no signs anywhere saying when it's open, if it's open, or going to be open. Nothing. It's just closed. One thing you do a bad job of in Emporia is inviting people back. So this is the second time we're being turned away, right? I mean, first is the one-room schoolhouse. The second is the Teachers Hall of Fame because we don't know where it's at. Now we're here, and we're being turned away again because all it says is closed. And so we're looking in the fence. It says Visitor Center, but there's still no hours. There's nothing anywhere. Our assumption was that it is no longer open to the public. What would your assumption be? So all you need to do is put on the sign, open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it's open. Just put on the sign. Even if you just go back and just hang something right here, just add another one that just says, open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 10 to 2, whatever it is. Then it's an invitation to come back, and we would have gone back. But because we didn't go, we never went back. So we're driving around. We did do that. We went back up to the north area, back and started coming around. And then we did see, we were really pleased to know that we've got the liquor store so handy for the go-kart people. It's just really convenient that way. And so we did see that there. No trucks are allowed in this parking lot, by the way. And I came up with another idea. How many of you know what trompe-l'oeil is? Anybody here know what trompe-l'oeil is? It's French for fool the eye. It's a type of mural. We saw the track going around this building. This is the side of the liquor store. We thought, man, you know what you could do there? Wouldn't it be cool if you painted on that mural like a NASCAR crowd? You know what I mean? So you're coming around there and you would just see it painted on the mural. You're coming around the bend and you could take a white wall that means nothing now and make it actually part of the go-kart attraction. Because if you've ever heard of Big League Dreams, they build these big ballparks that are major league size. And here they are. See all the crowds here? All these crowds? Look at all the people. They're all painted on. That's trompe-l'oeil. Trompe-l'oeil is fool the eye. It's a type of mural. This is trompe-l'oeil on the side of a building. These windows aren't there. Neither is this awning. Neither is the Coke machine. Neither is any of this stuff. This is a flat building. It's all concrete block. This is all painted on. That's all painted. It's all flat. That's during the process. There it is during. There's the guy that's painting it. He's really well known for that. Notice that all these are shadows being painted on. There it is done. Is that cool or what? That's trompe-l'oeil, fool the eye. Before, during, after. Before, after. He's even painted on. It's all trompe-l'oeil. Look at that, even up close. Is that cool or what? You know, this is inside a brew pub. Look at this. See the hose right here? This is before. There's that hose after. I asked the lady, how many people walk up there and go, she goes, no, but people do. They go like this and they have to kind of feel it. You can be this far away and not tell. Go ahead. Sitting on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. There's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Guess what? This building fell down. That's only the facade. This is not even glass windows. This is all painted on. And by the way, you've got to pay homage to the Eagles, and there's a couple making that up there. That's all Trump Lloyd. Did you know that 1.5 million people will drive 2 hours out of their way to go to Grand Canyon to get their picture taken in front of that? So, I'm going to skip over one here just because of time. And I may come back to it. It's a little video, but I want to show you a more Trompe l'oeil. All of this stuff is all painted on, even the shadows, all of this. And this is Huntsville, Texas. They did facade easements. So they gave the city easements to the facade so they could decorate them and do the Trompe l'oeil. Because you could do that right downtown with this donut building. I don't know if the donuts are good or not. It doesn't look that great from the outside. The sign, is it still in business? It is? Here's one thing you need to know, businesses. You need to make it obvious, because you do have some vacancies, and if you don't make it obvious, I wasn't sure whether this person, the sign doesn't look like it's been touched. None of this looks like it's been touched in 20, 30 years. And it may be fantastic. Got to make it obvious. But I thought this would be a good candidate for some kind of a mural. And this would be a perfect candidate right down. You got all these historic buildings and this just doesn't fit. I thought, man, you could do some trompe l'oeil on here and really make it shine better. So it'd be a way to dress up things, because first impressions are last impressions. So now, back out to that site where the go-kart track and the liquor store are. This is what you see from the freeway. You need to get rid of these. You need to go to the property owner and do an abatement ordinances and make them take these signs down. Because the last thing you want is the people thinking of you the way they think of Topeka when they drive through. And there's too many of these blown out signs like this. But there you go, Emporia, welcome. You need to force these people to take these things down. I mean, they're even in downtown. It just makes you look like a town that's headed the wrong direction, which I know is not the case. Invite us back. You know, when it comes back here to the farmstead, is once again, there's no signs that say, there's a little tiny sign there, but we didn't even get out of the car. Because, you know, we didn't know where to park. We thought somebody lived there. And that it was a historic home you can look at, but don't go in. That's why we never walked up to the front door. So what you need is that little sign right out here that just say when it's open. So these are just little things you could do. You know what? If you spent $200, you could fix almost everything I told you, and you would get us overnight. I mean, these things are so obvious. They're not obvious to you because you live here, but they're obvious to somebody from the outside. Parks. The Peter Pan Park is worthy of a better sign than this. This is why you need to do wayfinding sign. Come on, this is a gorgeous park. You know, but the sign looks like it's 30 years old and that nobody takes care of it. The park is fantastic. It's beautiful. I mean, you have some amazing parks. So we drove all the way kind of around. We did go over to the industrial side. We drove all the way down, came all the way, wrapped all the way around. So we kind of did the whole exterior. That's what we did. And then when we came to about lunchtime on Tuesday, we went downtown. And we went to Amanda's, which, by the way, if it wouldn't have been on the top TripAdvisor, we might not have eaten there. Where's the outdoor cafes? We didn't even know what it was. But once there should be, you should have tables and chairs everywhere outside this time of year, wrapped around the corner. And if the city says we don't allow those, then change the ordinance. It's a beautiful. By the way, it was great. It's the only place we ate at twice. But from the first appeal, we didn't know. We didn't even know what it was. Because I don't know what this says up here, but it didn't look right. And, so we thought, well, let's go in there. And it was fantastic. Great service, great people, great food. That's why we said it has to be on your best of list. Nice people there, and and just nice little atmosphere. We talked to people there, and I love this saying. And here's one. This is for you, Emporia. As you go through the branding process, we create our tomorrows by what we dream today. Find your niche, promote it like crazy, because you know what? Your downtown has all the potential that Lawrence has. But that's where everywhere we go in Kansas. Have you been to Lawrence? By the way, you may say, well, Lawrence is a university town. I've been there 3 times this summer. In the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, there's no university classes going on, and it's wall-to-wall people walking up and down those sidewalks. You have every bit of that population, or every bit of that potential. So, we did eat at Amanda's. It was great. Then we drove out to the airport. The only reason we drove out there is because we saw something somewhere. It was on a brochure or something that said airport 6 miles out of town. And so we did drive down there. We did see the airport. One thing, once again, you should put a sign there. Is there fuel there? Is it a fixed base operation? Can we do flight instructions there? Is there tie downs for people? Are there hangar leases? Do you do balloon rides there? There's nothing there that says that this is even open to the public. At all. Nothing. See what I mean, what you're doing? Where's the invitation? And by the way, it says courtesy car parking. Does that mean that, I'm not too sure what that means, whether they park a car there and if you fly in there you can just borrow the car and go into town? Are there taxi services? If I fly in there, is there any way for me to get downtown? I'm asking you right now. Is there? And how is that? Who do you call? If I come fly into that airport, is there a way I can get downtown? Susan? And how? The courtesy car? And is the courtesy car, do I have to call for an appointment or do I just take it?
Ask the attendant.
So you go in and ask the attendant. Okay. See what I mean? There's no information. Now, if I flew in, I'm going to go in because I have to go in anyway. But are there tie downs there? If I bring in my Cessna, I can tie it down while I go. See what I mean? This sign might cost $1,000. But if you put a sign that says, welcome to the Emporia Airport, yes, we have tie downs, yes, we have fuel, yes, we do have flight instructions, yes, we do have courtesy cars, please come on inside, close the sale. I saw, well, they're spying on us. We got tourism here. Now, was that you, Richard? No, just kidding. It could have been Department of Wildlife, but they're probably flying around the area, so had to take that picture. And then while we were there, we thought, let's check out the golf course. Certainly your golf course is worthy of a better sign than that. Come on. I mean, that's it? A little tiny sign that you can't even read? And so these are, am I being harsh or what? But you think about this from the eyes of visitors. I mean, even this, I'm waiting for it. It looks like in a couple more days it will all the way over. Once again, we're at the golf course. Can I rent carts? Can I? Does anybody know? Okay. Do you have club rentals? Yes. Do you have a clubhouse? Yes. Is there a restaurant?
Yes. Restaurant.
Is there a pro shop?
Yes.
How is anybody going to know? No information anywhere. Remember, not everybody's going to go in, get out of their car, walk into Aslan, go back to their car. All you need is that sign. If you want to triple your tourism, just invite us back. Because you have nothing that says, spend some time here, come on in. Nothing. And so that's really easy to do. I see benches out here, so I thought maybe they sell food. But I just asked you, there's no restaurant. Is there a snack shop? Is there anything? They do sell food of some sort? A little grill? Is it open for lunch? No, I never knew. Never knew. So these are things you could fix. And even this here, it's like, you can't even read it. It tells you the yards and stuff, but it's all worn away. So we did go to the golf course, then we came back in town, and then we did go to the zoo. And I think it should be the David Traylor Zoo and Botanic Park. I mean, the Botanic Park is just as good, if not better, than the zoo. It is gorgeous. By the way, in your brochures, don't market the zoo as, we're the smallest accredited zoo in the country. The second you say we're the smallest accredited, number one, as a visitor, I don't even know what an accredited zoo is. The second you say we're the smallest zoo, it makes it seem like it's not worth it. And this zoo is worth it. It is your very best tourism attraction, hands down, that we saw. And so I wouldn't market it as the smallest accredited zoo. I mean, come on. If you're the biggest one, then great. But when you say it's small, it makes it seem like it's not worth much. So I just want you to understand the psyche of people you're trying to attract. And we don't know what an accredited zoo is. We just know it's a zoo. But I thought if you market this as the David Traylor Zoo and Botanic Park, because the gardening and the beautification in there is fantastic. It is just gorgeous. The zoo does a great job. I mean, even things like this where you can stretch your arms out and figure out how we saw the vultures there and see what their wingspan is. Really, really, really a great job. I mean, we were really impressed. Is anybody here from the zoo? Great job. I mean, really great job. It's really a great little gem. And I thought it was great. It's just, even the little spider web back there, I wanted to go crawl on it. But even, all of the cages, I mean, the beautification just everywhere. It was just stunning. And by the way, it is the place we spent the most time. We were there for a couple hours. And it's not that big a zoo, but we just wanted to hang out there. But here was the disappointment. We saw families there. There was probably 10 other families when we were out there. This is Tuesday. And I heard one father saying to his kids, don't worry, we're going to get lunch. We're going to get lunch. They have lunch here. We went over. It's closed. Is this ever open?
It was the last few years just during the summer months, but it's always like volunteers.
Oh, you know what you do? You want an idea? Because that was, I was going, oh no. By the way, there's a place for donations there when you walk into the zoo. You need to make that a little more prominent, because I left a donation, but I had to move the cobwebs away from it. That's not a good sign. Because people aren't donating. I think they're hard to find. I was saying there must be a place I can leave a donation, then I found it. So yeah, I'd make that a little more obvious. But I don't know if you have high school or the university has retail classes. Maybe you could lease this out to a university or high school DECA, if you have a DECA program in high school, where they actually run the business. Something. Because I think there's a missed opportunity there, because we're in the summer, it's the peak season, there were people there ready to spend money, and even whoever owns this, it's about 3/4 empty. So here we are, there's no place for us to spend money. And we're trying to spend money. And so that's something that I'd say, well, you know what, rather than do it by volunteers, maybe we lease it out. Maybe we have high school. And I'm just trying to give you some ideas. It is a fabulous it's a fabulous zoo. But don't say it's the smallest. Just say we have one of the best zoos in Canada. It's intimate, it's charming, and you're going to love the botanic setting that it's in. Does the zoo staff take care of all the plants and everything too? You have a horticulture? Oh, man, they do a great job. You know what? If they ever have any downtime, could you send them downtown? It needs some help that way. But just really great. Just really, really a great attraction. When we left, we just went down the street to turn around. We saw this building. I would have never known this building's there. Now, here's my next question. Are there displays or anything for the public in there? There are? Never knew it. There's no signs. See what I'm saying? So, I'm picking on everybody now. So if there would have been something said that there's... Now, we thought education center and office. So here was our assumption. Number one, it's the offices. It's an education center so that if you have like a school bus full of kids, you'll bring them in there and we can put them in there. But we didn't see it as, could we just walk in there and see interpretive displays and stuff? Never knew that. So these are little things that you could do for hardly any money and an inexpensive sign that just says, come on in, we have lots of interpretive displays. And we kept it there probably another half hour or so. And you know what? Remember I said, you keep us in town for 2 hours, spending doubles. The zoo all by itself does that. We did go over to the fairgrounds. We saw this. Once again, we have no clue what this is. It's like Stonehenge, but so here's my question. Is there a story behind any of this stuff? Yeah. There is? Where's the interpreter sign? Where's any information? Where's the QR code? You have to go inside the building?
No, it's right there with them.
I walked all the way. Where is it? Is it behind the bushes? I couldn't find it.
It's on a post.
I did not see it. See, we parked where the parking is. The pedestal should be where the parking is. So when we get out of our cars, we see it. So there's something you could easily do because the pedestal might be around on the outside, but you know what? I didn't see it when we drove by the corner of Industrial and, is that Industrial and 12th? Oh, Highway 50, yeah. And so I didn't see it. But so what you do is if the parking is on the inside, then move your pedestal over there. Because it probably is a cool story, is it? Yeah. Didn't know. See, didn't know that. We did see this, and it was really funny because it was August 5th, and there was nothing going on. I mean, it's the middle of the day. The fair rides, nothing's going. There was animals being set up and stuff. We didn't know what was going on. You know what's missing? Hours. Rather than tell me the cost, why don't you put Carnival August 5th through 16th, and then put every day at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or 3 p.m. When does it open? This week. 6? Didn't know that. We were there at 4. So we figured, well, maybe they got the dates wrong. We didn't come back. These are things that are so simple to fix. So rather than do wristband every night, $22. By the way, we went in there and couldn't even figure out where you buy a wristband. We drove in there and kind of go, where do you go? Where do you buy the wristband? What do you do? So what's happening is you're not making it easy for visitors to spend time and money in Emporia that you could do for hardly any money at all. Am I being too harsh? No. And so we did see it looked great. It looked like it was fun. Although I'll bet it wasn't going the night before last, was it? Or was that was the night before last? 4 inches. Do you have like 4 inches of rain? Oh my gosh. I'm sure they had to shut it down early, right? Yeah. I mean, it was lightning and everything. It was amazing. And so downtown. The fairgrounds looked great, by the way. So we came downtown. We found the museum. Our poor museum folks, they're going, boy, why did we ever befriend that guy the other day? Yeah, they did a great job. So we went to the front door of the museum, of course it's locked. Once again, there's no sign there that says entrance is now around the back. We just thought it was closed. Fortunately, we did park in back. And there was lots of people there, but we didn't know if they were there for the library or they were there for the museum. So that door was locked. So then we walked around to the side, and then we did see a little arrow right there, but we missed that the first time when we walked around. And so then we did go in the museum. Now, and it's a little bit small, and as you all know, they're going to move. So I'm not going to critique the museum because they were there and came out and we had a good conversation. Matter of fact, they took us downtown and showed us the new building. That's going to be really cool, 4 stories and everything. But one thing I told them, so if you don't mind me repeating this, the museum is very proud of this fact, and they should be. But in the marketing it says we have more than 265,000 artifacts. That is fantastic. But to a consumer, see what I mean? There's no way we're going to go look at 265,000 artifacts. So from a consumer, you have to avoid these words. Even the word museum now, try to get people under 50. They'll like stories. And by the way, Every county has a museum, and nobody cares about Lyons County Museum, such and such county museum, the next county museum, and this county museum. You know what? And so I always think that museums need to have a focus. We're the Veterans Museum of Kansas. We are you know what? One of the biggest, most popular museums in Canada is in Alberta. You know what it's called? The Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. In Alberta, the Native Americans up there, Aboriginals or First Nations, they would herd the buffalo over towards this cliff. And when the buffaloes would go over the cliff, the first one would go down and head smashed in, and then they would club them to death. And they only did that for like 2 or 3 buffaloes, and then they would shoo the rest of them away from the cliff. But they named it the Head Smashed In Buffalo Jump. It's one of the most visited museums in Canada. If they would have just said if they would have just said the Native American Buffalo Jump Museum, the name God pulled them in. Whoa, what is that? You know, and so that's what you have to do. Look at this. The average museum visit lasts between 20 and 40 minutes in the United States. And once again, here's what I told you before about visitors. And then museums must learn to tell stories, not just say artifacts with facts and figures. And by the way, visitors don't really care about who donated, and thank you, museum. And I think it's important that we acknowledge people who donate items. But I was in the one in Independence, I was in the one in Concordia, and they had hundreds of thousands. They had like uniforms, like in a closet. And all said, donate by, donate by, donate by, donate by. You know, for a visitor, I don't care. Where's the story? And so, I'm going to give you 3 examples. I was working in Huntsville, Texas, and they had a Veterans Museum. I want to show you this because if you do play up, if Veterans ends up being your brand, I don't know if it is, because you know what? You cannot hang your brand on an event or a day, and it has to be interactive. But I want to show you this one. In Huntsville, Texas, Heart, Helping Every American Remember Through Serving. It's a Veterans Museum. I have been in thousands of museums, and I went, okay, I'm going to walk into the museum and see all these artifacts, jeeps and rifles and everything. I walked in, and an interesting thing happened. They had these little 10-foot booths, and there was a booth there, and there was an old guy there named Michael Camella. He fought on Omaha Beach that day. They had another booth that had a guy that fought in Iwo Jima. Another booth that had a guy that fought in Vietnam, the Korean War. They had all these different booths, and they had veterans there from the United States, from Canada, from Australia, and Great Britain. And they're each telling their story. I had just seen the movie Saving Private Ryan. They say that the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan is the most amazing cinematography ever. And that made a profound impact. I walked up, here's this old guy there. And he was a little bit shy. And he said, yeah, my name's Michael Camella. And I said, so tell me your story. And he says, well, he goes, you know, I joined the Army when I was 17. They let him join, if you had parents' permission, early. He said, you can see there's 2 different guys in pictures. He said, my very next door neighbor was a good friend of mine. We grew up together. We'd known each other since we were 3. We joined, we enlisted together. We were on one of those landing crafts coming up to the beach in Omaha Beach. And what they do is they pull up to the beach, they let down the front flap, and they have to jump in the water. And he said, as we were pulling, the Germans were just firing on us. He says, we were so scared that we wet our pants. I mean, we're just standing there, and we're getting closer and closer, and they're in these bunkers just firing at us. And he said, as soon as that ramp went down in the water, my friend collapsed right next to me. His best buddy was in the same, right next to him. He collapsed and got shot through the head. He said, I grabbed my buddy, and we jumped off the end of that, and I sank. The water's 45 degrees. He said, we weighed like 100 pounds. We're carrying 70 pounds worth of gear. He says, I sank like a rock. He said, I could hear the bullets whizzing by underwater. He said, I thought I was going to drown. It was cold. As I was drowning, he said, I closed my eyes, said a prayer to God. I have a hard time telling the story. He said, the next thing I remember, I was laying down my best friend on the beach who'd been shot through the head while he was underwater. I will never forget Michael Camella, who died a couple years ago. It's about the story. You know what? Those veterans come in there, they have 3 weeks. The hotels put them up for free, the restaurants feed them, and every day they go and tell their story, and so it's always rotating. It's always different. Different veterans from different countries telling their story. If you want to play up the veterans theme, you need to do something like this. I told the curator, you got to get these guys on film because they're not going to last. I mean, most World War II veterans are already gone. But you know what? It doesn't always have to be a sad story. Because I was working in Elko, Nevada, and there's the Northeastern Nevada Museum. It has 2 wings, a wildlife wing and then another wing. And I went, and a historical wing. And so I went in and they said, the admission is $6. I went, $6 for a local museum? They said, yes, but you get an all-day pass. You know, the average museum is 20 minutes to 40 minutes. I'm not going to go for 10 minutes and come back later. So I said, okay. I paid the $6, but you know what happened? I went into the wildlife wing, and they told the story of how a lion kills a wildebeest. They didn't say, here's a wildebeest, here's a zebra, here's a lion. They told why the lion drives it down its front hooves, because they're really sharp, and they can kick, and they can create havoc with their hoofs. So they drive them down there. They did that. I spent 3 hours in the wildlife wing. And they told the stories. And then you know what I did? I left for lunch and then came back since I had the all-day pass. And I went over into the other wing. But instead of showing branding irons, they told the story. In the West, marking a beef with a red-hot iron is like placing a 4-footed stake under lock and key. It goes on to say, occasionally a career in the cattle business was launched by illegally altering a brand, but the rustler's shenanigans usually were halted at the end of a swinging rope. They told the story of this one rancher who had all his cattle out in this valley. It was all fenced off. But his cattle were disappearing. The gates were closed. They would go down there in the Nevada desert, and there's no human footprint, so surely the cattle weren't being rustled. There was no carcasses, so it couldn't be wild animals, so why were his cattle disappearing? So he went and had 2 farmhands stake out the valley. They went out there the first night. They slept in sleeping bags. They never heard or saw anything. The second night, nothing. The third night, about 4 o'clock in the morning, the sun was just barely starting to get dawn. They could hear somebody down there with the cattle, whooping and hollering. So they got out of their sleeping bags, they went running down the hill, and there they caught crazy Tex Hazelwood wearing these shoes so he wouldn't get caught stealing the cattle. I spent all day in that museum. They had another display of the butcher of Burbank, this woman who would go into these gold rush towns and befriend one of the rich guys, and then somehow he would die, and she would end up with his money. They told such great stories. So Lisa, day before yesterday, we walked in there, and there was, who's the gentleman? The first display. Oh, of course. She said, you know, there's this carpet bag here, and legend has it. She started to tell us this cool story about now, it's not, we don't know if it's really true or not, because this is a museum. It's supposed to be all about truth. But you can say legend has it. She told us that story, and it was really cool. I don't remember the story, but it was really cool. But the point is, it has to be about stories. Finally, this is one of the very best museums I have been in the United States, and it alone makes Kansas worth a special trip. I don't care whether you're in Seattle or New York City or Miami or San Diego. This museum right here. How many of you know about the orphan train? This little museum is not much. It's no bigger than this room. And I'm not talking about the upside. I'm just talking about where we're seating. And I went in there, and by the way, this statue is Millie. Inside, I could read Millie's story. Here's what was amazing about this place. Number one, between 1860 and 1920, 25 million immigrants arrived in the United States, and a lot of these kids ended up orphaned in the streets of New York City. They didn't know what to do with them. So they put together the thing that started the foster system in the United States. But you know what? They didn't talk about who organized it. They didn't talk about the foster system. They didn't even talk about the train. They talked about the kids. They told the story of how these children were put on trains and sent to adoptive families in almost all 50 states, or at least the lower 48. And they would tell them, immigrants flooded into the city. I mean, they tell the story. Absolutely fantastic job of telling the story. I mean, this is it. The photos, instead of using a whole bunch of photos, they have huge photos. They take one black and white. Look at these little orphan kids on the streets of New York. They take that photo and they make it this big so that you're just drawn into it. And they tell the story. I mean, you walk around in here and you're just captivated by it. Life on the streets, what it was like for all these little orphan kids. You know, top notch, not too much, great size, very, very effective at showcasing the stories. And then they would tell you about how they were placed out. Look at all the kids on the train. 200,000 kids at least were sent across the country. Oh my gosh. It was amazing to read the story. And even though it's the size of this room, we spent several hours there. Charles Loring, who started putting this together, you know, and they did just enough. So it wasn't displays or artifacts. The whole thing was a story. And you know, this is what got me. Okay, you might say I'm an emotional wuss, but let me read you this. People expect more of an orphan child than they do of their own. The faults seem greater, are magnified greater. I was sent to take away a boy for the awful crime of going in the cellar and sticking his fingers in some jelly. Would they send away their own child for that? I get ya. Those who take a child and keep him or her will have a great reward. It is the rearing of a monument far greater than that made from marble or granite. Get you right to the core. Oh my gosh. And you know what? That's an outside window. But when that light comes through, kind of creates almost a ghostly image of these children. And you know what they do? They tell you how they grew up, that they raised families, that they became school teachers, that they were pillars of the community, that they now have great grandkids. Some of them became doctors, lawyers. They tell you the outcome. It was so heartwarming to read this. So there she is. Here she is, Jewish girl. I think she's the one they called Millie. But they tell everyone, in 1985, at age of 75, she retired. She remained very active. They just tell the stories. Look what I wrote. This is one of the most important, one of the very best historical museums of any size in North America, and I've been in thousands. Hands down, the National Orphan Train Museum is worth the drive from Kansas City or anywhere else for that matter. It's about the story. That's what you need to do. And you got the stories here. You just have to tell them. So, the importance of downtown. I'm switching gears now. We went out and surveyed 400 successful downtowns and downtown districts in the United States and Canada. We found the 20 most common ingredients for their success, and I'm not going to give you all 20 of them. And the big deal about downtown is thinking that beautification is going to revitalize downtown. It is important, but it's what's in the buildings that makes you a draw. And so, talking about this, heart and soul of every community besides the people is its downtown. And by the way, if you don't tank downtown Emporia, neither will visitors. We go where you go. And the number one activity of visitors in the world is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting, and that is where 80% of non-lodging spending takes place. Just go to Lawrence. I can guarantee you today, Thursday at noon, school's not in session. It's packed. Am I right, Richard? You live there? Yep. So we spent some time in downtown. And by the way, tourism and Main Street should be joined at the hip because they're integrally need to be locked together. So there you go. Where do you go to hang out? When I ask people where they go to hang out, you can't believe how many people said Lawrence, Manhattan, Wichita. Nobody said Topeka. because they have the same problem. Matter of fact, their downtown has way farther worse than where you're at. You actually have a pretty cool downtown. I'll tell you about that. There you go. By the way, even for non-tourism, economic development, if you want people, factories, warehousing, the Dolly Madisons, the pet food companies, the things you have, you know what site selectors do? They come into a downtown, and the health of the downtown is the health of the community, economically. They judge the book by the cover. And it starts with local spending, by the way. And there you go. So we did a whole 3-part series, and you can watch this because I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm only going to touch on a few of these that apply to downtown Emporia. So first thing is blade signs need to be a top priority. Can you tell me what's in any of those shops? When we come in, how about here? I got this one, Unique Drawer Emporium. I have no idea what it is, but tell me what's in any of these shops. All up and down here. How about here? Here's the thing. When we come down commercial, it is commercial, right? When we come down commercial, driving or on foot, we see signs that are perpendicular to us, and you don't have them. So what's the incentive for me to keep walking down there? I see no incentive for me to keep going down there. There's no blade signs. And very little in the way of beautification. Tell me what's in any of these shops. We're just right outside the door here. Tell me what's in any of those shops. I see nothing. I mean, the only way I know the art center's there is if I go out here and go, oh yeah, art center. Or I go out in the street to get outside the awning, and then they go, now what's in this store? Visitors aren't going to do that. I mean, look at me taking the picture. Oh, there's the sign. It's over there. The only way I see the sign is from across the street. That's not very helpful. These are blade signs. That's what you need. By the way, there's something really important here. Restaurant, trains, collectibles, chocolate. It needs to be obvious what it is you're selling. Very, very important. That is in a little town called Leavenworth, Washington. It's a Bavarian town. This is Nantucket. This is Nantucket from another angle. Notice they're all consistent. This is Carmel, California. The best towns, including Lawrence, all have blade signs. It's obvious what they are. Here's a little bigger scale. That's this is in Valparaiso. Oh, there it is, Valparaiso, Indiana. A little bigger scale signs, a little bigger. Canmore, Alberta. So here's some general rule of thumbs for you. Look at, aren't they nice? It tells you what's there. Now, I don't know what caribou is. I don't know what trend is. See, so you need to make it, but this one here is obvious. So there's general rule of thumb. No lower than 7 feet, no higher than 9 feet, no wider than 42 inches. I'm giving you some rules to go by. These are only a couple $100 a piece. These can increase your business by 20 to 25%, retailers. Just having a blade sign. Because signage says a lot about you. What do you think? Okay, you didn't think that was that funny. Okay, how about this one? Signage says a lot about you. Okay, somebody a little slow on that. Notice the spelling. Notice the guy scratching his head. Okay, now what do we do? Signage says a lot about. Does this look like a nice place to stay? Does it? How about this one? Does it? See what I mean? You're probably saying, yeah, that looks like a nice place to stay. You haven't even seen the B&B or the motel. Signage says a lot about you. It's a direct reflection of who you are. I saw this once in a town. If you need a specific item, please knock. Other than that, we are closed, thank you. Would you walk up and bang on the door? I mean, sorry. Been there, done that? What happens when you're going on vacation and you go down memory lane just to find out it's a dead end? I was working in Texas and I saw the Be Happy Ranch. I went, wow, look at this, Be Happy Ranch. I drove down the street. There was the Happy-Go-Lucky Ranch. So the Be Happy, the Happy-Go-Lucky. I drove down the street thinking, what a great place. I love these people. They have such a great attitude. And then I came to the next one. Signage says a lot about you. I mean, when you see signs like this, Art District, can you read that? You never read script writing on a sign. Can you see visitor information? There it is, the nation. You know, here's Longhorn Cattle Company. I mean, we got all this garbage and stuff, you know. Next. I mean, would you ever guess that this was one of the top 20 rodeos in the United States? There's garbage down there, beat up guardrail, weeds, old tires. We judge a book by the cover. I'll let you read this one. Would you shop at any store in that town? I went and went, whoa, I'm out of here. Or signage can be pretty welcoming and sometimes, well, not. This was in Wyoming. And I saw this in Door County, Wisconsin. You want to hear something funny? I was speaking at the Wisconsin's Governor's Conference on Tourism. By the way, it's the third largest one in the country. We had 1,200 people in the audience. I showed that sign, and a lady jumped up in the middle of the audience and went like this. So we stopped everything. They got a big spotlight, shone it on her. I said, yes, ma'am, can I help you? And she yelled out, can you tell me how to get there? So, looks like a nice place to stay. See, you don't have to see the resort. And sometimes signage can say a lot about you on a personal level. This gives new meaning to the word branding. How well received do you think he was when he got home from work and was picking his clothes out of the tree? Woo! Signage says a lot about you. What do you think? Come on, it's a Big Pillow Motel. Are you impressed? Oh, come on. There it is. One bed, $20 by the hour. Pro optional. So, downtown. You know what? If you had more blade signs, you wouldn't need all these sandwich boards. You're just cluttering the street with sandwich boards, and a lot of your sandwich boards aren't even that pretty. But you know what? If you made it obvious, rather than Lucky Treasures, maybe this should say pawn shop, and then say Lucky Treasures on the door so you don't have to put like that out there. And by the way, for your businesses, they should always promote the lure to pull people in, not the name of the business. What would you guess this is? Anybody? Crab Shack? Seafood restaurant? Comedy club? They went out of business because they sold kites and windsocks. What would you guess that is? Pub? Jewelry store? They're barely hanging in it because they sell T-shirts and souvenirs. What is it to pull people in? This was in Jackson, Wyoming. Grizzly Rick's Market. He added this later, and his sales went up by 1/3. Because we didn't care about a market, but snacks, sundaes, and drinks was something we'd like to do while we're walking around downtown. So here it is, dynamic discs. I have no clue what they are. Now, I figured it out, and that's why I knew that they were disc golf. I think they're disc golf stores, is that right? I think they actually make them, which is cool. As a matter of fact, I thought, man, maybe this is a brand idea, or maybe it's a sub-brand, a niche brand. I don't know. But once again, I didn't know. I don't know what dynamic discs are. I don't know what Latitude 64 are. I imagine if I was a golf disc player, I probably would. But to a general public that might have an interest in it, I don't know. If it just said the world's best disc golf headquarters, learn, play, score, and just put it part of the sign, then at least we would know it would create a lure to pull us in. Make sense? So these are things that are low cost you do. You know, this is it pronounced Mulready's? Looks great. Number one, is it a restaurant? No, it's a pub. Do they serve food or is it just a pub? It's just a pub. I have no clue. There's nothing that says. So if they would put, I mean, we weren't not going to put great food, but they put fantastic spirits. Do they have entertainment? Occasionally. See, the problem is, I don't know what it is, so we never took the time to go back there and check it out. I have no idea when it's open. I have no idea what it is. You need to make it obvious. And by the way, I get rid of 99% of all this stuff. And that's going to take me to another thing I'm going to talk about. But here we go, Rhinestone Cowgirl. Looks kind of cute, not really a lot of beautification, but I have no idea. Do they sell clothing, accessories? Is it Western wear for women? It's a hair salon? No clue. See, we thought it was a woman's Western wear store. You got to make it obvious. So a little side trip. All of this stuff, there's been research done that says when you get past 4 items in a window, people ignore them all. And so when you see things like this, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You know what we do? We ignore them all. I mean, I noticed this one we're open, but I didn't know, and I didn't talk about all these down here. So here's what you need to do, merchants, is for you, pass this on to your merchants, never more than 4. So if somebody says, would you please hang this in your window, say, well, you know what, if I hang that one in, I got to take one out. Because how often do you stop by the plumbing store here and read all of those? Do you ever? Does anybody? And that's what you need to know. Little side trip. This one here, I don't know whether they are a plumbing contractor or whether they sell bath fixtures and furnishings, or maybe they're even both. But maybe the sign should just say Beautiful Bath Design Center. What is it? And this is a place where your business, we had more trouble in downtown Emporia trying to figure out what's in your stores than any place we've ever worked. Because nobody names their store by, or nobody has out there what it is they're selling. Here we go, Second Love. My first assumption is Second Love is used stuff. Is that right? It's not? What would you think Second Love is? So I figured Fiesta Wear, K-State Chiefs, Willow Tree Angels, I thought this was all, I couldn't tell whether this is new stuff or used stuff. But when I see Second Love, so what they ought to put is gifts and amazing home accents. Always promote the lure that's going to pull us in. L&L Pets, that was easy. Villager, Lucky Treasures. I don't know what the Villager is. I don't know what Lucky Treasures. It says thrift store, so I'm assuming it's a secondhand store. Am I right? That one I got right, because it says thrift store, so I guessed that one. But you know what? Maybe, and I didn't know whether it's the Villager or Lucky Treasures, or if it used to be the Villager or whatever. High gear, cycleboards. I think cyclery and skateboards ought to be in big letters. Always promote the lure first, and then say, by the way, here's who we are. That's what you need to do. This one here, Town Royal, I don't know. It says candy, but I have no idea what this is. Is it a restaurant? It's a bar. No clue. This is what happened to us all up and down commercial yesterday and day before. We can't figure out what's in any of these shops. We walked by Studio 11. It says Studio 11 making junk look good. We figured it was by far a secondhand store. We would have never gone in there had we not gone into the art center, and that gal says, you got to go check it out, it's really cool, and it was. But you know what? We would have never gone in had it not been for that. And it was really cool stuff. Loved all the carved letters out of the aluminum siding and everything. I mean, it was a really cool store. And I think somewhere it is kind of secondhand store, but they did make it look good. Another great store that looks like it's probably a really great store is this one, Little Red Rooster, but I have no clue whether it is accents, clothing, rocking accessories. So is the rocking accessories women's clothing or home accessories? Have no clue. What is it? Is it women's clothes? What? So this is clothing accessories, and what is this one? What is Little Red? Oh, see? We didn't go in because we didn't know what it was. So that's something you could do. And I love this one. We're the store next door to Balloons by Ernie. So apparently this shop owner doesn't even know what he's selling, or her. I mean, I have no idea. It says for rent, 4-bedroom loft, and it says open, but the door was locked. I have no clue what it is, except for that it's next door to Balloons by Ernie. Next thing I want to talk about is beautification. It needs to be a top priority. This is Jonesboro, Tennessee, a town 2,500 in October. Does it make you want to go in that shop? You know, this is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, out in the Arch Trail. This is in November. All these are dried. All of it's dried plants. So it works year-round. Here's the big deal. 70% of first-time sales comes from curb appeal. We all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a nice place to eat. I'm not so sure we'd gone into Bobby D's had it not been number one on the list. I mean, it looked okay. It didn't look bad. But beautification, planters, baskets, all of these things all work. And so, once again, you know, I hate to keep doing this. I'm throwing the Lawrence card at you again. They do a pretty good job. It's not totally good, but they do a pretty good job beautifying their street fronts. And so this is the power of beautification. You know, this little town of Mahone Bay even does a scare. There's Prince Charles, Lady Camilla. But there you go. There's that quote again. That statistic. 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. Once we're in, no problem. I'd go into Studio 11 anytime. Now that I know what's in there. The same with Bobby D's. I'd get there anytime. Or Amanda's or any of the other ones. Look at this. This is Neenah, Wisconsin. That's before, after. Retail sales went up by nearly a third just by doing that. So you know what you could do? You could do what they did in Fredericksburg, Texas. Town of 12,000, by the way. They all got together. They asked the merchants downtown to pitch in some money, whatever you could afford. Some pitched in $5, some pitched in $20. I think one pitched in $200. They pitched in whatever money. Then what they did is they took a guy over to a couple of wholesale nurseries at the end of the season in October and said, we'll buy whatever you have left over for pots. They don't have to match. They don't have to be similar size. All we want is to make sure the openings are 21 inches or bigger. We'll take whatever you want. Give us a wholesale price. We've got X amount. How many can we get? And so the wholesaler gave them stuff at less than cost because he had to just dump it at the end of the season. So they brought them back, and they had all the merchants just go grab a bunch of them. So this merchant grabbed a bunch of them right here. This merchant here grabbed a couple of different ones. They did not say you only put in $5 so you only get one. They just said just go for it. And so they started spreading them out. This lady took 2. You know what they did the next March? So I had them sitting out there, and during the winter they had pinwheels and fun stuff in them. The next March they brought in 15 yards of topsoil, dumped it in a side street. Then they paid the high school cheerleaders, band, football, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any youth group that was looking to raise money. They paid them to plant them all. And they went out and they made sure that 2/3 of the plants were evergreens. So they didn't have to worry about winter. And they paid the kids to plant all the pots. There was some left over, so this guy did a whole grouping of them at this gallery. And you know what? They never had one single case of vandalism because kids protect things they take ownership of. And so they lined up the whole street, and it made all the difference in the world. Their retail sales tripled by making their downtown beautiful. That's what's missing in downtown Emporia. For the most part. Part of beautification is extending window displays to exterior spaces. So let me explain that. Every morning, this merchant goes and sets this display up. It's a beautiful display. That is the power of beautification. And you need to extend those window displays to exterior spaces, and I'm going to show you more examples. Does that look like a great place to go or what? I mean, look at St. Albert, Alberta, the Botanic Arts City. You know what they did? They're all about gardening. So I thought, if we're going to be about gardening, and our slogan is cultivate life, maybe we better, if we're going to talk the talk, maybe we better walk the walk. So you know what the city did? They did a program where if a merchant would spend up to $5,000 beautifying their property, they would spend up to $2,500. They'd pay 50% up to $2,500 of that cost. And so one of these businesses, this one did that. This is before. He also changed the name. He changed the sign. It's same building. These things are still there. Before, after. His retail sales went up 400%. 400%. That is the power of beautification. The mayor told me I can never get a seat in there. The place is packed, always. And so every business downtown started doing it. Here's another statistic. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. 80%. I'm waiting for the guys. Go ahead. Usually there's some guy in there that says, that's all. But that's really true. Women want to be in places where they feel comfortable, they feel safe, and they feel welcome. That's what beautification does. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at this photo and tell me, the sun's coming out. What do you see? Been there, done that? That was not staged. I have two words for you. Think benches. In your downtown and commercial, you should probably have 100 benches. You have about 10. And I could include even Merchant Street. So think benches. By the way, I love what this merchant, doesn't that look cool? This merchant did a really cool thing. They put a little sign right next to there. You know what it says? Your husband called. He said to buy anything you want. So beautification. Great job right here. Great job right here. You know what? This little block right here, and then right up here, I'm going to show you that in a minute, really sets a standard, what you're calling your Granada district. It really looks good, and it's beautiful. But you know what? Most of your downtown, it's as stark as could be. It's uninviting. It's plain. It's just concrete to brick. And so you just don't have the curb appeal that pulls people in, makes them want to stroll. There's nothing, there's no incentive that's going to get me to walk down this street. There's no blade signs, there's no beautification, there's nothing. And by the way, explore Emporia, we're already here. That should always sell a feeling, not a command. You know what I mean? It should sell a feeling somehow in there. And so, once again, we got a couple benches here, but they should all be flanked with pots and planters. It's just very, very stark. So I want to get a question for you. Okay, I'm going to do a little test. Okay, I want you to tell me which attorney is best. Okay, I'm new to town. I need an attorney, right? Here's Irving Shaw. There's his law office. What do you think? Okay, there's attorney number one. Here is Stanley Osmus. There's attorney number two. And there's attorney number three. How many of you are thinking that attorney number one is the best attorney of the bunch? Now, here's the point, before I get sued. They may be all three fantastic attorneys. But if I was to take a look at these, I would say that this person here is a low budget, probably not a real successful attorney compared to this one that has the really nice doors, the really nice sign, nice windows, or this one that has nice curtains there. See what I mean? Now, it could be that Mr. Shaw here, I'm assuming it's a Mr. Shaw because his middle name is Irving, I'm assuming he may be a fantastic lawyer. But you know what? The way I just sized up these three law firms is the same way we size up retail businesses. That's the point. And by the way, attorneys, if they're downtown, should actually have some pride too. By the way, before you go and say, well, the city owns the sidewalks, they should be cleaning this up. You know what? You go to Europe, you go to France or anywhere, you will see the merchants weeding their sidewalks, sweeping their sidewalks, cleaning the gutters. This has to be a public-private partnership. And it's a shame that we don't have people that have pride of ownership in their buildings actually taking care of some of these things. And here is your Curb Appeal Award for Downtown Emporia, right there, the music shop. Is that your shop? No? But you know? That is stunningly beautiful. Can you imagine if this was extended down this whole way? Oh my gosh, you'd have people coming here from everywhere. That's how important it is. But thank goodness for Flint Hills Music. Somebody needs to go by there and tell them congratulations. Even here at the Art Center, you know what I would do is I'd move these out of this little cubby. I'd put them out here so they're more on display, so you can see them when you're walking up and down the sidewalk. You know, another good job right here. This is great. We have a little table there. We've got the little wagon there. Here it is. Try a frozen banana. You know what? This little block right here gets it. What about the other 6 blocks here downtown? It's very hit and miss. Because you have beautiful architecture. But then you look down here. Does any of this look inviting to anybody? No. Here, are they in business? Just open. Hopefully, they'll add a bench, pot. And you know what? They can hang bikes from racks. Put bikes outside. Extend window displays to exterior spaces. Something you could do. You know what? You know my first thing is, you need to give downtown to the Parks Department, not Public Works. Somebody that understands beautification. Because even in your downtown, these are great idea overgrown with weeds. I mean, we've got weeds here, we got trash here. We got more weeds here. We got weeds growing here. We got weeds growing here. We got trash all along here. I know they're adopted, but you know what? Thank you, Paul. He at least did a good job. This one actually looks like somebody cares. But most of the other ones, it looks like nobody cares. This is what I thought of your downtown. Trashy. And it's really a shame because you have some great shops and you have some great restaurants. But you know, you don't have a whole lot of people that says, you don't have a lot of people that go, wow, what a beautiful downtown. Let's stop. Let's go there. Let's hang out there. And then finally, landscape the center median. You know, I was driving downtown and I kept going, what is wrong with commercial? It's too wide. It's too impersonal. It's a state highway. I'd have the state deed it back to you. This is Greenville, South Carolina. That's in the 70s. Notice how wide it is? This is it in the 80s. They narrowed it down to 2-lane. They did angle and parking. They made wide sidewalks. They put in street trees. And this is what it looks like now. Amazing. You need to have street trees every 30 feet. And here's what you're going to hear. Here's what they heard. Number 1, those trees are going to block my signs. Number 2, we're going to have to clean up the leaves. Number 3, eventually the roots are going to uproot the sidewalks. Number 4, there's all these excuses why not to do it. I went into 20 merchants in this downtown that said it's the best thing Greenville ever did. And by the way, every 20 years they cull out trees. So every 20 years they take one out, put a new one in, and so there's always some infilling. And it's amazing. And they created little places for musicians and stuff to hang out. And they're doing great. So I'd love to see you do this down both sides of commercial. Because you know what? Studies have been done where street trees will increase retail sales and services by 18% on average. No changes, just street trees. 18% increase in retail sales. I thought, man, can we take this and actually make this a landscaped median with street trees right down the middle of the street? Something, so it's just not asphalt. Because right now what you got is concrete to asphalt to concrete to facades. No beautification, nothing to soften it, nothing that says downtown is great. You have every bit the potential to be a bigger draw than Lawrence. Think about what you got both directions. Topeka with 125,000. How many people live in Wichita? 250,000? 400,000? Wouldn't it be cool if those people came here instead of you going there? Because your downtown is so outstanding, and you could. You've got the architecture. You even have some of the great business mix. And by the way, here's my biggest pet peeve about Emporium. This morning, 2-hour parking is a flat-out way to kill your downtown, period. It happened to us. Yesterday and the day before, we were downtown. You know what I have to do? You got my parking meter friend, Mr. Couch Potato. He's out there marking the tires. And I, you know, do you enforce this? Absolutely. You know what I had to do? So I ate at Amanda's, was walking right out here in front. During the middle of the day, I literally, after 2 hours, I'm saying, you know what? When I'm doing this, you know what we're doing? We're spending less money. You know what our rationale is? We cannot get our employees to park somewhere else, so we're going to punish our customers instead. stupid. Here's the deal. What I had to do, I backed up. I literally backed up Commercial Street and then pulled in another space. Every 2 hours, that's what I did. You have a downtown that I could easily spend 4 hours in. Why are you chasing me away after 2 hours? So, 4-hour parking. That is the average time people spend. So here's the point. There you go. 2-hour parking dramatically reduces spending and repeat visits. Think about this. If we come down here for lunch or dinner and something going on at the ground, and granted, I think after 5 or something, I can't remember what the time limits are, but if we're doing any of these things downtown, we're going to spend more than 4 hours. We're going to spend more than 2 hours. Why are you chasing us away? And so what you have to do is get rid of those. Get rid of these. Or if you insist on 2-hour parking, tell me where 4-hour parking is. So here's what happened last night. Last night we ate at the pub, the brew house, what is it? What's it?
Radius.
Yeah, Radius. We ate at Radius last night. After we ate at Radius, I knew I was coming here this morning. So we drove around downtown trying to figure out where there was something other than 2-hour parking. There's none. Now, we went back where your farmer's market is, and it says 2-hour parking on the inside of that parking lot, on behind the building, and on the inside of the curb, and on the outside of the curb. But there's no signs in the middle row, so we're assuming we're safe to park there all day. I'll see if we get a ticket or not. I mean, for me, the customer, your customer, by the way, we bought shoes. We both bought a pair of shoes in your shoe store. It's great. I bought a men's bracelet yesterday in your jewelry store. But I was doing this, looking at my watch to figure out how much time I had before I had to stop spending money. And for us to have to drive around the night before to try to guess where we could park for 4 hours because we're here from 8 to noon, which means I better hurry up. I mean, where did you park this morning? Did you guess, is it true that I can park in the middle area of the parking lot? There's no signs that say so. There's nothing. We just guessed and hope like this. Because if somebody comes into this town and gets a ticket, even though they broke the law, they're going to write you off. Because they were trying to spend money in your town. So if you insist, do this. 2-hour parking all day, you can go straight, left, or right. You need to do that. And then create invitations, not rejections. Your restaurant should be doing stuff like that. Are your retailers doing stuff like that? By the way, this is Grass Hills, California, next to the Sierra Nevadas. This is in January. She has a wind curtain that comes down there to keep it warm in and the cold out. It's all silk. Extend window displays to exterior spaces. I mean, if this lady didn't go to this trouble, her store would look like that. Would you go in that one? And you need to avoid the garage sale look. Does that look like a really good bookstore? No. And you never would allow merchants to do this. Because would you put that inside a window display? Of course not. So you wouldn't put it outside. So, you have a great shoe store. This is as tacky as it comes. Great guys, by the way. Both of the guys in there said, let me tell you here. They've had a big screen monitor in there. Great guys. But outside, just a big pile of shoes out there. Makes them look like a second-hand shoe store. And they're not. It's a great shoe store. And by the way, I'd have all merchants get rid of clothes signs. Get rid of them. You know what this says? Go away. Instead, you could create signs like this. Or like this and have them write them in. Here's when we'll be open. Always create invitations for people to come back. And then create a lure to pull people in. And I'll tell you this one little story. I know I'm running out of time, but I was in this town taking pictures. I did an assessment. See these 2 chairs? I took this picture, Grandma's attic. She sells home accents. I came back about 20 minutes later. There was a line of people out this door, down the sidewalk, waiting to get into the shop. I went, what the heck? And I looked behind the line. There were 2 kids in these chairs, each eating an ice cream cone. Turns out there's a little sign up there, you can't read it, but it says ice cream. So you know what I did? I got in line. I worked my way into the store, and she sells home accents, and there in the middle of the store, she had a little 3-foot ice cream counter. You know those little tubs of ice cream in there? I made my way up to the counter. I said, ma'am, is this your store? She goes, you bet. I said, if I was you, I'd give those kids free ice cream and make them sit out there all day. She goes, well, that's what I do. And then she says, let me clarify. I give kids 1 free ice cream cone a day. They do need to sit in those chairs. And I have an unlimited supply of kids, and their moms love my store. And I said, have you ever kept track of how much of your sales how much of your non-ice cream sales come from having ice cream? She goes, oh, you bet, 70%. She goes, I'm not in the ice cream business. It's just a way to get people in my store. I said, yeah, but most people say no food, no drink. She goes, every once in a while I have an accident, but you know what? The income certainly outweighs the accidents. So what are your merchants doing to pull people in? And then where are your sidewalk cafes? I mean, your whole downtown this time of year should just be chock full. Outside of Amanda's, outside of Casa Ramos, outside all these places. These are Silk. This is in Salem, Massachusetts. It doesn't have to be expensive. You could even do this, where this was in October in Nelson, British Columbia. They're getting ready to take it down, but during the summer months, they allow merchants to put decks out there. And then so that it doesn't take up the whole sidewalk. Wolfville, Nova Scotia, I'm showing you ones that have severe winters, where they take the whole sidewalks full of dining and they route pedestrians around. I mean, whatever it takes. See, you can see where the pedestrians go here and they walk around it, and then we have outdoor dining. These are things you should do. I don't see this. You need to bring downtown to life. You're a university town, and your downtown is dead. I know university hasn't started. But you know what? Your downtown should be alive. Matter of fact, one of the biggest disconnects you have in Emporia is you have a university in 12th Street right in front of the university is dead. A bunch of vacant retail. Why? There's no connection. You need to bring downtown to life. This is how you start, by doing these things. Sidewalk cafes, extensions of window displays, street musicians, whatever it takes, bring downtown to life. You have 6,500 students or so at the university. I hope they're hanging out in downtown, because they're going to be here in, a week? Are you ready? So doing these kinds of things would be fantastic. Once again, you have every bit of potential as anybody here. But you know what? That should be all full of tables and chairs. Oh my gosh. Even if people aren't sitting in them, right here, around the corner here at Amanda's. And by the way, there's the rule of critical mass. And you already do this to the most part, but if you want downtown to be a draw, and I would start with, 6 to 8th? Is that kind of your 2 core blocks? Am I right? I think that's right. Or is it 7th to 9th? I can't remember. But this block, and probably the next one up, right? Is that where Casa Ramos is? That way? Am I getting okay. So these couple of blocks, here's what you need. In 3 lineal blocks, 10 places to sell food, 10 destination retail shops. You're probably close, but remember, I'm talking about in 3 lineal blocks, not from the university down to south. And then here's the third one. You ready? At least 10 places open after 6. You need to get the mall mentality. We have consistent hours and days. I mean, why is the brew house closing Tuesday, Wednesday? They're all over the place. There's no consistency. They need to be open in the evening hours. I could go through this whole thing. Get the mall mentality. And let me skip over this little thing right here, and let me just talk about this. Think about this. Antique malls do 10 times the business when they're all together. Auto malls. Why does Chevrolet want to be next to Toyota, Subaru, Honda? Because they do 7 times the business when they're grouped together. I mean, think of all these things. Remember the days, why does Wendy's want to be right across the street from Jack in the Box, Burger King, and McDonald's? Because people are always drawn to the rule of critical mass, food courts. So sometimes you have to orchestrate the effort. And that's exactly what they did in that little town of Jefferson. I mean, they did that, and it worked. So the other thing that you could do is, I want to talk about your public market. And I know I kind of took too long on that other stuff. We'd love to see you do a year-round public plaza and market. Because you know what? I saw that. Once again, I have no idea when or if it ever happens. When is your public market, farmer's market? There's a sign on the kiosk? Where? Really? I couldn't find any sign anywhere that tells me the days or the hours. This thing? Is that a sign? Didn't even see it. Never saw it. We drove by there probably 30 times. Missed it somehow. Now, our question was, is this the farmer's market, this little bench?
No, it's the entire
It's that entire row?
market.
Okay. But you know what would be really cool? I think it's great that you have one. You know what I'd like you to do? I thought, man, can we take this whole parking lot, get rid of all the cars, and build a permanent year-round public market? Wouldn't that be cool? Where you have all these garage doors all have windows in them, but during the summer you roll them all up and it's a big open covered pavilion. You know, except for one corner where you have restrooms and refrigeration stuff. Or where the inside it could be flex space. I mean, I'm just giving you ideas. Where it could be a year-round public market. You could clear this out and you could do RV shows. You could do job fairs. You could do art shows, chainsaw carvers, ice carvers, Christmas tree forest, haunted house. You could do all kinds of events. Wouldn't it be cool if you had somewhere right downtown you had this event space that could be a year-round public market? You know, and so we have a whole video on that. And the other one I want to talk about is having a plaza. If you want young people and you're a university town, one of the key things you need is a plaza downtown. Because we're in the age of third places. The first place is the place we live, it's our home. The second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. Starbucks built an entire brand out of building third places. We are moving to the European standard in the United States. We're eating later at night. We're shopping later at night. This is Italy. This is Siena. Every town was built around a piazza, and it's all ringed with commerce. That's the other thing about plazas. They can't just be vacant spaces. They need to do outdoor dining, outdoor cafes. I mean, you name it. Downtowns and plazas need to be programmed. And I could give you just one case history. And so, this is Rapid City, South Dakota. I told them, get rid of this parking lot and turn it into a plaza, even tear down the old Sears building. Well, a guy came along and called me up and said, Roger, my name's Ray Hildebrand, and we're not tearing down the Sears building, I just bought it. And by the way, I gave the city $1 million to build the plaza where you said. Smart guy, because he now owns the most expensive piece of property in Rapid City. So there it is, that parking lot, 60 spaces. They did not make up the spaces. That's it before. That's what we wanted them to build. Well, they didn't build that, but that would have been really cool. This is it before. That's it afterwards. That is a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. There's that Sears building. There's the stage. There's the parking lot back there. And you know, this is all full of restaurants and shops and everything up here now. And this is it. Look at, there it is. This place is packed. I call downtown Rapid City the hole in the middle of the donut. Because everybody goes there to go to Mount Rushmore and everything, but they never go downtown. And all of a sudden this place was just packed on a Sunday morning. It's always busy. Car shows are coming. Quilt shows are coming. Everybody's coming to Rapid City and wrapping their events right around the plaza. There's a splash pad. They had it shut off this morning because they were doing some police dog stuff there. Some fun stuff. Then when the splash pad's going, that splash pad runs 120 days a year. And the kids play in there. It's about the locals first. And even this is right down the street. It used to be an old firehouse. It's now just it's Firehouse Brewing Company. And you know what? In the winter, that turns into an ice skating rink. Main Street Square organization makes $130,000 a year just renting ice skates. They have to dole them out because it's so busy. I mean, it is incredible what this has done. And somebody even did a post to Facebook that said, movie night, Main Street Square, Rapid City. Every Monday night they do movies on the square. The average attendance is 3,500. Look what this person wrote up. I grew up in Rapid City and was never as cool as it is now. In 2 years, the average age of a person buying a home in Rapid City dropped by 12 years. The youth are coming back. So I thought, man, could you... Okay, I understand that the old high school could be turned into like a conference hotel. Am I right? Really cool. I thought, man, if you could just get these people down here, if this was a plaza, if this was all a plaza with a public market, I mean, even if you don't build a public market building, but you just build a plaza and allow the public market to be there without having to move cars out of the way, wouldn't that be cool? I'm just giving you ideas. Somewhere to create a central gathering place. I mean, I even thought right here, here's the brew house. I even thought, man, could it be here? They've got outdoor dining. They could open this up, and it could be on this block instead. Somewhere downtown, you should have a central gathering place, a public plaza, and get those university kids to come across the street, and all of a sudden your downtown's going to work. And so, there's another video for you. Other notes as I wrap up. I thought this would be so cool. You know what this reminds me of? And I don't know what it is, or it used to be a gas station at one point. It looks like it was a restaurant at some point. Was it a Dairy Queen or something? No, it was never. But you know, I saw one of these. Here it is in Kingman, Arizona. Is that cool or what? So there's a business opportunity for somebody. You know, I even saw this here, and I know it's plumbing right now. I thought, man, this could be a kind of a cool little microbrew or a neat little place just like this one I just showed you in Rapid City. I mean, even this could be activated. This little alley here's where the museum's going to go. And so you could do, even this should be full of tables and chairs like in Shipshewana, Indiana. And you know what they do? Could you imagine you allow food trucks in there, little coffee carts or little vendors in there? Activate your downtown. Bring it to life. You know, you've got people living downtown. I'm sure they would love downtown to be alive. And then you've got to figure out a way to integrate the university here. I mean, I'm going, I don't get it. I don't know why why does 12th have to be the Great Wall of China? And so there's something you got to work on. I mean, I do see, orange leaf here and a few of those, but I just think you got to work on that. And then finally, my last one, because I'm out of time. I want to go back to branding. Find your focus. I thought, well, could you be the disc golf capital? I mean, you have 2 courses. They're actually pretty well renowned. You've got one of the only stores and everything. Then I thought, probably the challenge with that is, well, how does that work during 6 months of the year when it's winter? Number 2, is it too small of a niche? I don't know, but I'm just throwing out ideas. I was here to look, and that was one thing that came up. Maybe that's a little niche. The one that really stood out to me the most was biking. And I kept thinking of that town of Devon, Alberta, and I want to show you what they did. This is the one I was showing you. They decided to become Bike Town, Alberta. 2 girls, Janet and Michelle. They championed this cause. Just 2 girls. They even convinced the city to stencil on the streets, "Welcome to Bike Town," as you drive into town. They've got 30 kilometers of trails. Now, I saw the Kanza. You have another 200. You have, somebody said, I saw in a brochure somewhere we have the best off-road biking in the United States. I saw that somewhere. I don't know whether it's true or not. But, the gravel roads, scenic and all that. I mean, I saw a lot of stuff about biking. I saw maps. I saw everything. I thought, by the way, the fastest growing hobby in the United States is biking. Number 2 is gardening. Biking is the fastest growing hobby sport in the United States. And so they took their 30 kilometers, when it came to breast cancer awareness, they took bicycles, painted pink, and they lined them all up and down their main street. They even got the city council to wear t-shirts that said Bike Town spokesperson. They trademarked it. You know what Raleigh Bicycle said? I wish we would have thought of that. You know what they said? Build us a velodrome, a covered velodrome, because they have winners like you. Build us a covered velodrome, we'll give you the trademark. They're now negotiating with them. Their kids went out and won a $25,000 grant. They championed the cause to build and design a bike park, and here they are designing it. This is what their stuff looks like. Grab life by the handlebars. Is that cool or what? You know, there it is. Grab life by the handlebars. Fastest growing sport in North America. You know, here it says, biking is not only the sport of champions, but champions the sport of healthy living. So change your life cycle. Cycle for life. Devon, Biketown, Alberta. I mean, you know, whatever it is. You know, I love this one. Only a biker understands why a dog sticks his head out the window. They're even doing billboards. Billboards might look like this. Grab life by the handlebars. I mean, everything they're doing. The first one went up last year. They're doing bookmarks. And on the bookmarks, they talk all about biking and the health benefits of biking. And they talk about their trails, and they give these away. When they promote their best of, they call it Top Gear, the very best of Devon. And there's their trail guide. The city has adopted it. The logo and everything is now on everything. It's Biketown, Alberta. And they're doing these pole banners, and they're going to do the other side soon, and they're just doing the photography now so that they look like that. All their wayfinding signs now reflect the brand of biking. And this is just all the templates that they're creating to get that going. Even their trails, Canyon Loop, River Trail, Timber Trail, they named them all differently. And they made it a priority. And everything is Biketown, Alberta. And they've won all kinds of awards. And they built that bike park. It's pretty cool. And they host BMX. And they host everything that has to do with biking. And they cannot even keep the logo gear in stock. And look at all the publications there are for biking. They're all looking for places to send their people. You could be in any one of these. So it's one idea. I don't know whether it's veterans, I don't know whether it's biking, but you know, I thought somebody in Kansas is going to do this. And you know what? It needs to be in the Flint Hills. Because that's where you get the terrain and all the scenery and everything. And they thought, well, could you be we saw all these stores downtown, and we thought, man, I don't know if I've ever seen a place with this many secondhand stores. Maybe that's it. So when you think about those ideas, could you do the veterans thing, take it to a next level? Like I showed you in Huntsville, Texas? Is it antiques? You know what? Antique could be a big deal. If you had 100 antique shops in your downtown, you'd have people coming in from everywhere. Or is it biking? Now what you have to do with biking is figure out, well, what do we do in the winter months? You know, is it disc golf? But I think disc golf and biking kind of go together. It's kind of a combination. Probably the same people do both sports. I just want to plant some seeds for what is it. And then while we're here, we will absolutely learn about William White. We will absolutely go check out Concordia. We will absolutely go in your restaurants. You have some great dining, by the way. I don't know that you're going to be the world's best culinary destination, but you know what? Every single dining experience we had in your downtown was great. Last night, eating over there at the pub was fantastic. They did great food. I mean, it is really good. All of these things can double or triple your spending. And there was nothing that was that expensive to do other than a wayfinding system. There you go. You have 44,000 people within a 30-minute drive. Let's get them down here, hanging out here. That does not include students. So I had another 7. You have 50,000 people here. And then finally, my last one. Here's what's going to happen. I'm finally done. And I'll hang around for a few minutes afterwards if you want, but I'll let you all go because I said I'd get you out of here at noon, and it's after that. But I am going to send Susan all of these files. I'm going to send her the presentation. It's being videotaped. We'll get access to that. We're going to write that report. I want you to go through these, make a list, and let's do this one, this one. We're already working on the one over at the schoolhouse. We're already working on that one. And there may be other ones you're working on. So you say, we've already got that one, that one. And you may say, well, you don't want to do that one. Remember, these are just suggestions. You know what I call assessment? It's the conversation starter. What do you want to be in Emporia when you grow up? Because today is the first day of the rest of your life. Sometimes we hang our hat on, we were the founding, of Veterans Day. We were, William White. I think those are all fantastic. I always say embrace your history. But you know what? History isn't a point in time. Today's the first day for new history. And so you need to look forward. And there you go again. Remember that. And then finally, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best plant time is today. And so thank you so much for having me here this whole week and having Jane here too. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you.